away.
I
don't think you're alive.
Yeah, why did you tell me that?
Well, I was trying to figure it out.
We have to. That was a practice run. Are you kidding?
Yeah, that was a practice run.
So that's what I was looking at. Where's your live chat?
I said to talk to you for 5 minutes and didn't even count.
Hey, we're here now.
And look, I had so many good hand motions.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Well, we're gonna have to. Now you guys have video and audio, right? Ben finally got me. Why didn't Ben text me? Maybe he did. No, he didn't.
So this is real now. What's happening?
Yeah. So this shows us on the YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your neck gear, correct?
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. We already talked for 5 minutes without the stream being up here.
We literally told like half the story already. We're almost done. Yeah.
Man.
Well,
It's good hanging out with you guys.
Let's reel it back.
We skipped the part where we say hi to everyone anyway.
Okay.
Let's do that. I like that part.
Oh, we have to go through the roll call and say hi to each of the people?
Each one individually. No, I don't.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, jeez.
5 minutes without the stream. Oh,
mess.
man, that's what I sound like. I'm a monster.
The curtain's been pulled back.
All right, that makes sense why everybody was chatting about what they wanted to and not what we were.
Not paying attention.
Yeah, I'm
This is like triggering all my teacher tendencies.
Yeah.
Students, stop talking.
Yeah,
we can't hear you.
Anyways, let's start over. Sorry about that. I forgot to press the button. Anyways.
Don't forget to make fun of Tony in the intros.
Oh, yeah.
Best parts of everything we did.
Yeah, this is how they do real
Dry
TV.
run.
Anyways, right?
It
They do a
is.
dry run and
Yeah.
then find that joke played well. Anyways, we're here with Micah, and Micah's also known as Genuine Article, designs a bunch of stuff for the channel and does great design and artwork in general in life. But one of the things is our generalized stickers. He is the one who came up with this idea, which I absolutely love. So we made these in 4 colors and they're for sale. Also these great grab bandanas. So, is this backwards? Come on, Dave. This is, man, I'm really half a beer and this is where I'm going. And then there's Tony.
When we thought we were live, I made a joke about not having an alias I go by, but I'm not going to make it again because Tim used it as an opportunity to make fun of me.
Yeah.
See, you learned. Yeah.
See, glad we had that practice run.
I just found a scary note in here that has my name on it. Is this a hit list?
No, it's not a hit list.
Okay. Why would I believe you? You're the one who made it.
If it was a hit list, you wouldn't be here.
That's true. Is this a snuff film?
See, it's even better the second time around. Large already wants to know where the mustache is.
Oh yeah. I finally took a shower today and I decided it wasn't a mustache, it was just dirt. So I washed off.
Even Yonda got in here tonight and we messed it up.
Nice.
Jeez.
Damn.
Sweet.
He'll never
Also,
come out
these
again
are
now.
these butt plugs.
Oh, doinks?
Oh, yeah, the big doinks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, so we were going to talk tonight about the Coast to Coast gravel grinder. Micah and Tony and a couple of their friends did and didn't do it that we'll get into. I have questions because I'm not sure what happened. But so some took to the start. These two were 2 of the ones that did.
Yep.
Anyway, so it's a 204-mile ride across Michigan, starting north of Detroit.
Yeah, about an hour and a half north of Detroit.
And Al Gray.
Critique Tony if you didn't
Something.
say it right. It's
French,
exactly
a lot
how I
of
said
French
it too. But yeah. Yeah, so the mitten kind of notches in on the east side, and there's Al Gray's on a point, right? Point Al Gray. So that's where it starts.
So Lake Huron to Lake Michigan, thus the name Coast to Coast.
East to west, yep.
Yeah, and 85% gravel, right? Is about what they predict or
85.
say, but gravel.
Gravel encompasses a wide range of terrains. We'll talk about them all.
Yeah.
Dirt, what we think of as gravel here in Ohio, some single track, double track, a lot of sand. Sand.
Yeah.
Sand and sand and sand.
And they redesigned the route kind of last minute because they've been in drought conditions for quite a while. So it's drier and sandier than normal. So they moved a couple of parts of the route onto pavement to avoid some of the additional
Too dry.
sandy areas.
Which I can't imagine that there could have even been more
I
sand
know.
than there
That's
was.
amazing
but-
because around here we had some of that happen. Like Honda Hill's a place we ride.
Right.
Was actually so dry that it's always too wet. I've never seen it too dry.
Yeah.
But Michigan, that surprised me because they just had some huge storms roll through there. So, but I guess if just one storm, maybe it just runs off. Or
Well, and we encountered a storm on our way through, but as soon as we got north of Detroit, it just was bone dry.
Oh.
Yeah, it rained on our way up, and then there was massive storms our whole way back. But we were there on just a beautiful, clear, hot, humid day.
Yeah.
Jay Dandy asked Velma or Daphne. Jay Dandy, that is 11 p.m. talk. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Depends on how many beers.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I called it in the intro. It's hard not to talk like this, but semi-supported. But
Yeah.
you have a crew that could meet you at 3 spots
Yeah.
and along the route, and they're designated spots, right? Checkpoints.
Yeah. So, and they officially call it on the rides self-supported or unsupported, but definitely you're required to have a support crew, mainly to bail you out. If you have to tap out at some point, they don't have a SAG vehicle. They don't offer that kind of pickup service.
Now you can pay them to be your support.
That's right.
So they have people that are, I assume not volunteers, I assume are paid for spending all day, chasing you around. But you can either bring your own support crew or pay them to provide you with one. And we brought our own that we shared among a few of us.
Yeah. So yeah, you can meet them at mile 55. So the first 2 stops were high schools, mile 55, mile 105, both high schools. Then mile 169, which it's funny because I don't know if you had to do this, Tony, but I started playing a little bit of like numbers games in my mind because I knew I'd accumulated a little extra distance just from like riding around the parking lot looking for the van or a wrong turn here or there. So I tried not to think about the actual number that the rest stop should be at. So I wasn't bummed when I rolled past that. I was like,
Right.
oh no,
Yeah.
I need to stop. But so 105, 169 was the third stop and final stop.
That was just a trailhead.
It was a trailhead at Big M campsite.
Eric Anderson asked, so no aid stations? Technically, no, but your crew was. They had everything you would
Right.
need because I know Carl had packed an extra chain. I saw your guys' photos of nutrition and water.
Yeah. They did have, I think they had water available at each checkpoint.
Yep.
Beyond what just you brought with your crew. And then there was one neutral water station at mile, what did you say, 144, 143?
Yeah.
And that was just a church with a hose out back that you could fill up at. So they did provide a little bit of water. There was a number on the back of your card you could call or text if you were dropping out. But yeah, there was nobody beyond your own crew you could call if you needed a ride or something.
And then they also had like kind of that traditional, like we were saying, endurance riding thing where if you wanted to go to something that's open to the public, you could, but you had to go to like an open convenience store and then you had to return on the same route, correct?
Yeah, the main rule was that you were not permitted to meet your support crew outside of those 3 checkpoints. If you were, then you were being picked up to bail out of the ride. And then if you left the course, you had to re-enter the course at the same spot where you exited. So if you did, I think Micah mentioned this when we were talking before we went live, but there was one gas station, one little sort of very small town you passed right through. Other than that, you would have had to go off, some number of miles from the route to get to anything else.
Yeah.
And that's okay to do. Basically, anything that's available to all riders is okay. So you can accept help from other riders. You can stop at stores. You can knock on the door of somebody's house if you're brave enough to do that. There were actually a couple people along the way that would set up, like they'd sit out on their porch and cheer people on, and they'd have like water bottles and coolers, or maybe even like a little, makeshift tent set up. You could like take a break under, cool off for a minute. So all that stuff's
kept
okay
it
to
even because everybody could access it.
exactly.
And that
Yeah.
was specifically what they said. You can access anything that's available to all people.
Someone said how many entries. I saw they cap it at 500. Do you know how many?
So there
Or
were,
500 men, and then it said
Okay.
unlimited women. I read the website right before we came on. But
I think there were 300. So there's 3
Unlimited
different
women.
ways. Yeah,
Just like-
there
just
was
like this live
unlimited
stream.
women. There were 3 different ways you could do the ride. So one was the way we did it. You just ride the whole 204. The second one was you could do a team, where you ride 100 miles, pass the baton, the next person
relay.
rides, which I laughed about. I had forgotten about that, and Kim reminded me when she was looking at kind of the finishers to see where everyone placed. And I just laughed because I'm thinking the first 100 miles was the easiest, and the second 100 miles was just like a kick in the face. And passing the baton to the person that had the second 100, just be like, well,
Good. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great point.
sorry, my friend.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And then you could do just the 100-mile loop, which started on the west side, looped, and ended back in the same spot. And the way they described it was the 100 is as hard in terms of it's all the rough terrain. So
Yeah.
you're just like spending a whole day in that sandy, loamy, soft terrain.
The second half of this course is far and away the more difficult part.
I read their route description, and that kind of sounded like it's more not just difficult, like climby too, right?
Little climbing. Yeah, basically all the elevation was in that third section.
Yeah.
And a little in the fourth.
Yeah, and I mean, this is an extremely. If you got the website pulled up, the people that put this together it's a really well organized race.
Yeah.
They're extremely detailed in what they prepare you for on the course details. They send out numerous emails periodically with just updates on the terrain. They give you so much information and are so clear about how difficult that second half and especially the last third are. And even talking to people who've done it before, everything in the end seemed to like understate how difficult it was. It was way gnarlier than I think you kind of or than they really
Yeah.
prepare you for.
Yeah, because I kind of looked at the number, and we have some friends when this was a couple people were talking about doing this pre-pandemic. I remember, and a couple of our friends jumped in and they said it's really sandy,
Yeah.
and they had said that they're like that it'll slow you down more than you think. So
It's so hard to. It's hard for me to take that 100% seriously. I don't know. You take it into your mind. You start to filter through, like, well, what's that mean, and is it super sandy to that person, or is it super hard to that person? But every time I'd read the updates that we received, I'm thinking, okay, these are people. The organizer of this is like basically a professional cyclist. He's dedicated his profession to mountain biking and endurance cycling. He designed this course specifically, and he's not trying to. This isn't like any sort of leisure ride where the organizer is like trying to really pump this thing up to seem harder than it is. These people are being serious, and so and with a lot of knowledge and wisdom. But did we ever answer the number of entries question?
Oh, I think it was about 300.
About 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a couple racer asked about like a tech bike question. Both of their bikes are here, so we'll get into any bike questions in a minute. We'll decide. Dimitri asked, "Was the smoke bad?" And I don't think you guys had it yet.
We didn't have.
No,
yeah.
I don't know if that's just either kind of tapered off or if it just didn't hit the area we
I
were
think
in,
the
but it was.
direction has just shifted because now we're under warning here in Ohio.
Got it.
And I think we're heading to almost the same area on Thursday, and there's some air
Okay.
quality warning. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, Philly. I know Rick said Philly had it.
Yeah.
After New York, I think it's just it's all the wind patterns. So.
Yeah. No, the weather was gorgeous on the ride. It was hot that day, but if anything, I had a lot of lung distress from the dust
The dust. Yeah.
because we were on
That
public
happened on
access
Tour Divide.
roads.
I know Leo put on a mask. on
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all public access roads, so it's either ATVs, trucks, campers, all blasting down those very dusty gravel roads.
Very few of them, though, I'd say, for 200, for being as long
You're
as
right.
it was, like almost no cars.
Yeah.
Now, when you would get one, if it was on one of the gravel roads, yeah, the dust was insane. But
There's some tire size questions which we'll get into because I was curious about when we show the bike because I'm curious if everyone was happy with their choice as well. Pudgy said gravel bike people spend 87% of the bike banner talking about tires, but I think that's for good reason on a course like
Yeah.
this, and they have a whole on the website like, and they really were like specific like, are you trying to do this? Are you trying to do this?
Yeah.
Like the guy talks about how much he has to put a foot down on each kind of bike he rides. It matters. I mean, it's something I'm considering
That's-
for the trip I'm about to do. It's a decision of why I'm not taking the bike that I always ride on bike stuff. But
And not to get into the tire thing, we can talk about it when we look at the bikes. But I will say it was one of the only times I've experienced being at the pre-meeting on Friday night, or the pre-ride meeting on Friday night, and then Saturday as well with the lineup, thinking like, oh my gosh, my tires are too skinny.
Oh, really?
Never had that experience at a ride.
Yep, because you think about like, going to the rides around here like Road Apple, Roubaix, or even Black Fork.
Black Fork.
You'll see people on 32s, maybe
Yeah.
even like road bikes, and this had absolutely zero. There were actually some people on fat bikes there.
They're fat
Yeah,
bikes.
I watched a
they're
couple
plus
videos.
bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube videos of people riding, and it would look like a real mixed bag of.
It's a mixed bag. I saw one guy that probably had 32s. I did not see him much after the first section. But most everybody was riding like 2-inchers.
Yonda asked, "How'd those extra brake pads treat you?" They're right here, Yonda. Come get them.
Still fresh.
He was giving us a hard time because a couple people had the idea to pack an extra set of brake pads, and I went to the shop to pick some up, and he goes, "Where do you guys think you're going? You're riding 200 miles across one of the flattest states in the lower 48." And so he actually took a set of brake pads out, just handed them, and he was like, "I'm just going to give you these, and when you don't use them, you're just going to bring them back and put them back in the So
You're right, Yonda.
You were
Fargo
right. You were right about that. And yeah.
Yeah, Fargo. Honestly, that Fargo. If I were to do this again, I would be tempted to take it. It would have performed flawlessly on this ride.
Eric Anderson asked a question that I read on the website. It said you're not supposed to switch bikes or wheels or tires.
Right.
So,
Correct.
Were they telling you guys that, or?
Yeah, that was one of the rules.
It's a very like spirit of gravel idea, I think.
Yep. So
You make your bed, you gotta lie in it.
my guess is that people that are racing, maybe they've encountered people having extra sets of wheels in their support van. So because the first 50 miles is very fast. I found myself in a pace line, and we were holding 21 for basically the whole 50 miles.
Oh, wow.
And it was pavement, and then it went to sand, like right from pavement to soft sand. And then it went to normal gravel after that. And people stayed really tight together, which is a little nerve-wracking. But
Yeah, I watched some videos. People are really pace lining. You can't see the road.
you can't see the road, you're pace lining. And when it went
I mean,
from pavement to soft, dirty sand, it was fishy in there. A lot of people fishing around and trying to find their footing. So, but then it hardened up again. Because on the coast, it was very clay-based. So, like, really polished dirt.
Rick said Tony's a little hot. Thank you, Rick.
There we go.
Appreciate that.
It's weird, but that's my best
Does that work?
solution to not try and change all these.
My hat's gonna
weird
fall
settings.
So once it got back to that hard pack, everybody tightened right back up, and we were in a line of probably 35 bikes. It was just very tight, but fast.
So you went out hard. You went out that hard with the confidence of riding at 21. You could finish under 4 miles.
You know what?
That's
I know.
a ballsy move.
Well, I was.
You have to.
I
You
definitely
have to.
felt like I was
Okay.
rolling the dice, but I did know I'm going to lose a ton of time on the back half of this ride. So let's just do this while we have the opportunity. There were a couple of thoughts in my mind. The terrain was really solid. I was in a pace line, so I was expending
in the
very little
draft, yeah.
energy. And then third, it was the coolest part of the state. So on the coast, it was like a high of 75. In the mid-state, it was a high of 90.
We're also starting at like 6 a.m.
Starting at 6 a.m.
6
So I'm like, let's just bust ass now, get as far and fast as we can, and then when it gets hot and it gets nasty out there, I can chill a little bit. Yeah, we were going fast.
And I was, so John and I, a friend of ours that went out with us, we should go through the crew at some point and kind of who ended up where. But so John and I came out, I think we were about from judging by the photos they posted where they kind of had each pack, I think we're about like 2 packs behind you. So we were doing like 18, 19 on the roads and like 15-ish on the gravel. So we came into checkpoint 1, which was mile 55, at averaging 16 and a half miles an hour.
Yeah.
And we had the same thought, like, are we overcooking too early in this race? But it's like they're giving you all this flat, paved, hard pack.
Yeah.
Like when it's cool out, like I think in
Take
hindsight,
advantage.
I would not only do it that way again. I'd probably go even harder
Huh.
at that first leg. Yeah, it was definitely the right move.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, we'll get into the crew. I think one thing I'll do, maybe while we're chatting, is I'll play some of Micah's clips in the background.
Cool.
So that, because I don't think they really need explaining. They're just
No,
showing the
they're
terrain.
just terrain, yep.
So I think showing that, and then when we get into the technical stuff everyone's trying to ask about, it'll make more sense.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we could. So yeah, I am curious about the crew because if you guys, I know a bunch of people have been asking about the wax chain thing. The wax chain thing came about because of this event.
It did.
And so even when it was me, Nicole, Carl, and Micah there when we made that video, Nicole was also waxing a chain for Tony.
Yep.
So, and then there was also Albert, who's been on the stream before with Micah a number of times on their adventures, doing bikepacking.com routes. And then there was
John Duarte. Yep.
John Duarte, and then you had there was a driver of the van who was scheduled.
Our buddy Josh, was our kind of support. He drove us out there and was the primary navigator through the course to get the van where it needed to go.
A random question from reading the description today that maybe they've changed the rules on. It said only a support vehicle can only support 3 riders, and you guys had, did we just say 6?
We technically ended up with 2 support vehicles.
Oh, okay.
So we can explain that too, I guess. So Albert had initially signed up to do the ride with us, and I think just didn't have as much time to ride as he'd hoped.
Yeah.
And so decided instead to just turn it into kind of like a fun weekend trip to get out of town. Brought his new dog along. So Albert was a massive help. He made us coffee. We got the starting line rolling out.
We can hear that, they can't. So
Oh,
you
gotcha. Okay.
Talk at your normal.
So Albert helped, pack stuff up, close down the Airbnb for us so we could get rolling in the morning, and then I think it was primarily basically supporting you because you were out in front, but was driving from checkpoint to checkpoint to, have refuel supplies and tools and stuff for Micah. And then the rest of us were more, I think, kind of following the big van, so which you can actually see that's our van we're passing right now on the right there.
Oh, okay.
And then, Josh was a friend of Carl's. Carl's the one who kind of got us all roped into doing this. And then
Arm twist.
Nicole, similar situation to Carl. She'd signed up. We all agreed to do this like last fall, basically.
Yeah.
And
I took it.
the
Mirror.
That's me.
you wanna good job calling up.
Can you still hear that, guys? Let us know. I turned it way down. They're saying they can still hear it.
Here we can.
Um,
On here,
Can you just mute
put
it on the
change in
or will that?
It's not coming through anywhere.
They're probably picking it up on our mics.
Yeah, the
though.
mics are probably. Can you just mute the
Oh,
output
our
on that?
mics are picking it up. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
We got you. We got you.
My whole technical nerdery is like, if it's not on the faders, it doesn't matter. But yeah, your mics are, yeah.
So Nicole also had just work schedule changes and stuff. Didn't get to train as much. I know she's spending a lot of time mountain biking, but so Nicole kind of planned to just come ride what she could and then just hang out. So she ended up riding the first leg and stopped at mile 55, and then converted into like full support mode. Like was a huge.
Oh, okay, so she did start because
She did.
we were
Yes.
trying to dot watch and we didn't see her start, and then we saw photos of her and we thought she scratched right at the beginning.
So the complication at the start
That's right.
was
Yeah, I forgot about this.
John and I went over to Lake Huron, which was actually whatever bay, Saginaw Bay,
Yeah.
I guess, to dip our back wheels in. And we were going to wait for everybody to come over, group shot, and the lineup had already formed. We were minutes before the start of the ride. Thank you very much. And we're waiting, and I'm like, man, what's up? So John rolled over to check on everybody, and he texted me. He's like, Nicole has a flat. So she had a flat before.
What, 4
the
minutes
start.
before rollout? Yeah.
So furious change of tire, of tube, get that in there. Everybody rolls out, but Carl ends up not being able to find his tire levers. So he's like searching. He ends up being the very last person to leave the starting
Yes.
line
Oh,
of everyone. So it was a really tough start, and I know for Nicole it like really set her anxiety even higher of just like, oh my God, now I have to think about this tire.
Now I've got a
It's got
tube in that I
tube
plan to
in
run
it.
tubeless this whole ride.
wow.
Just like
All that stuff.
all the things that were already, troubling her shot to the top. Yeah.
But yeah, she was an absolutely essential part of the team in the end because,
It was amazing.
Josh that we had drive for us, really great guy. It was super cool of him to agree to just give up his weekend to basically cart us around.
Yeah.
He's not a cyclist, so our thinking was he'll just drive to each checkpoint. We'll get there. We'll do the things we need to do. we didn't really plan for being kind of like delirious the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it was a massive help to just basically roll up to each checkpoint and have like pro level support where are we going right now?
Dave, watch this and tell me if I just clicked the wrong button. See if we lost our.
It's gonna be about 30 seconds.
We are 30 seconds behind. I don't think it had any effect, but I also don't know.
If it's
Dang.
super bad, the chat will.
Let us know real quick.
Yeah, it's just all Pudgy's comment.
What do you
Let's
think?
find out here.
So I think we're good. I think I just
So
lost.
are we just talking as if we lost
know.
them for
You
nothing?
You paused.
What is this?
Now you're resizing the screen.
Oh, that was a minute ago.
Yeah, but we're still talking and stuff.
I can't hear it.
We'll turn it up.
And they can hear it.
They're still talking to us like it's all fine.
Oh, that's like a minute.
That's a super long time ago.
So we don't know if I messed it up or not yet.
This is like time travel.
The whole Nicole thing, like nothing is playing. Oh, there, it fixed it. You
We're
got
just sitting here if it is working.
You got a,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got a technical difficulty.
We don't know. Sorry if I just smashed my
yeah,
hand
this-
to the microphone.
Yeah, it just says we're good.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, we didn't. I thought we lost our
Why are you
feed.
whispering?
Yeah, I have to smash a lot of buttons on doing this. Anyways,
Tim's just smashing all the time.
all right, I'll get more video going then.
But yeah, so she was. I think Pudgy had said she would be epic support.
Okay.
Nicole was like so positive and encouraging and energetic when we rolled up, and like Tony said, had knowledge of what might be needed.
Right, she could just take off your, my Garmin, plug it in,
Yep.
immediately start refilling water bottles, and like you could just kind of sit and chill for a minute and eat and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the crew basically. Definitely Nicole, Josh, and Albert were, I think, critical to everybody
Yeah,
getting even past the first checkpoint.
I would say the same for Albert. The first checkpoint, you get in and you're feeling good. You're on a ride. You're moving. It's beautiful out. You're excited to be riding. It's the second checkpoint that I rolled into, and I was a little dazed and not firing on all cylinders. And so yeah,
Now Carl did say he actually contemplated dropping out at all three checkpoints.
Yes.
because he
Oh,
started
all
having
three.
because even at the
Oh, he
first
said knee
one.
pain.
He was
Yeah.
his knees started locking up on him, and he was able to work that out, I guess, between the first two checkpoints. But yeah, like it was funny. Like I rolled into checkpoint 2, and they're like, "Oh, John just left," and then just as I was leaving, Carl was rolling in,
Okay.
and it's like everybody. You see pictures from that first checkpoint, and we're all just like a little bit. We were all starting to feel the effects of heat exhaustion a little bit too.
Yeah.
So it was about 90 degrees out.
Yeah.
At this point, no cloud coverage and no tree coverage. This is a super exposed part of the route, which this is not what you're seeing on screen necessarily. This is a lot more tree coverage, I think, later in the course.
this would be the third segment.
But
yeah.
I don't know. I was personally having that thing where it's like the sun is beating down on you. It's 90 degrees. It's humid, but like you're starting to shiver. If your body is shivering in 90-degree heat, that's a sign that
That's
you
a
need to be
sign.
really careful about.
It's a sign that
what
if you have
to do
100
next.
more miles to go,
Yeah.
it's going to be a long day.
And I chugged a coconut water. They threw like a cold towel on my neck and like got moving again. But it sounds like we all kind of had that experience. I know Carl said after around checkpoint 2, he had to he got to the top of a hill and had to put a foot down and suddenly was all dizzy. And
Yeah.
so the heat was a
Church
was
stuff.
a
church
factor that was hard to ignore on this too. Oh man, there were a lot more people at the church when you got there than when I got there.
So everybody was like a corpse. They're just like, oh.
Rick asked how many bailed among the group. I think we'll get into that as the story goes on.
Well, let's do a quick overview of that now since everyone wants to know. So
Okay.
so we have represented
Nathan
here
and what Nathan asked a question we
Yeah.
answered in the beginning, but people jump in, so I think it's worth saying again. This cuts off at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It started at 6 a.m. in the morning.
2:30 a.m. I think is the cutoff actually.
2:30.
2:30,
okay.
yeah.
And then they've calculated that to be like about a 10-mile-an-hour average. But remember that includes
Your
stops,
clock is
everything.
running.
So
Right,
your
and-
clock's always running.
And in addition to the 2:30 a.m. cutoff to finish, there is a cutoff at the final checkpoint.
Right.
You've got to hit the final
Oh.
checkpoint by 10:55 p.m. I don't know if there are cutoffs at the first 2 checkpoints or not.
I don't. I think there
They
are,
just
but
kind of
it's
like
arbitrary.
yeah, you're gonna hit those ones if you're doing okay.
If you showed up to this race, you
you
better
Oh
can
man,
see
I'm
on
having
this some
I'm
of
having
that.
like such
Yeah.
serious.
Well, now it's in
PTSD,
daylight
yeah,
for you.
to I had to get sand in the day and night.
Oh,
Like,
good,
I
good.
got it all over the place.
Oh, and then I did read on the website, and then someone else told me later that this was your goal, which I didn't know. They have like kind of a sunset cutoff, which is
Yeah.
that's like just a thing.
Just a thing.
Race
But
the
you,
sun, yeah.
You had set on that as your goal to beat.
That was my
sunset?
goal. I wanted to beat the sunset, but I again
And that was a 13.5 mile an hour average.
There
right?
was, yeah. I ended
And
up
again, including
finishing at about a little over 14 and a half rolling time and like 15 and a half ride time, you know. But yeah, that was, I really had come to terms with the idea of I want to finish this, you know, and especially after I hit some of this stuff, I was like, I just want to finish. But the next level goal was if I can finish before the sunset, that'll feel really good. So
And you get a, I think, don't you get a special plaque if
there's
you
a little plaque.
if you
yeah.
finish
Oh,
before
there's a
sunset?
so they actually
And
do have kind of a.
We should have mentioned at the beginning. So the ride
Yeah, you
starts
can see, sorry, Tony.
Yeah.
You can see some of this gets real deep in here.
3-4 inch
Especially in
deep
that
sand.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sand that goes over your wheels, and if you have to put a foot down, it's going to go over the top of your shoe. We should have mentioned at the beginning. The ride starts at sunrise, and it's not quite the solstice, but like it's the longest Saturday of the year is when they hold this event. So if you can race the sun, you've got you've got the best shot you're going to have all year of beating the sunset. Yeah, great footage of the sandy.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because we were camping on what the Swift camp out is, which they do the same thing. The weekend closest to the solstice, ride the longest day of the year, sleep the shortest night of the year.
Yeah.
But we were like all so curious. We're pulling out our phones, looking at Instagram, and then they did have the dot watching thing to see.
That's cool.
And when we saw that you finished, Mike, we were like calculating the time, and we're like, holy shit, that was a pretty impressive ride.
Now the dots, I will say the dots are estimates.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we did.
we were trying even during the stops. I remember a couple times us checking in on the dots, and it was like that is not where
That can't be.
these people are at. But
Because it would carry your average speed and guess then how far you were. Yeah. So I think Bronlin had seen like, oh my gosh, Micah finished, but that would have been like an 11-hour finish or something.
From the yeah.
Which the winner, I don't know if you saw the winning time.
Insane. Someone asked 10:15.
crazy.
I
two
honestly
century-
don't know how.
Imagine finishing a 200-mile ride through this kind of terrain, and it's like still a little bit too early to go get dinner. It's like 4 p.m. or something. That is how fast
Yeah, so-
the winner finished.
So when you think about that, anyone who's ever ridden a century ride, that's a 5-hour and 7-minute century
Which is
over this terrain.
fast.
Over this terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it means that like you can lose so much time at those aid station rest stops. I know we all had plans of like Carl had said, I don't want to take more than 10 minutes at each rest stop. My plan is to take 5 minutes, but I'm slow at everything, so I'm planning 10 minutes. And then, oh yeah, here you go.
Oh, that's sand.
Real like it's like you're on the beach. It's not an
Yeah.
exaggeration. It's beach sand.
And you would just see like snake trails of everyone's tires and then a lot of footprints next to it. So I ended up being able to, I rode all the sand. I did end up having to walk up 3 hills that were just basically sand dunes. I was so mad. I was so mad at that because I just did not want to get off the bike. But
Even this in the woods looks sandy.
Yeah.
That's where most of the sand is actually, is in the Manistee National Forest.
Oh, we're gonna go through that. That's
And
good to know.
some of the I'm not surprised that
too
you
much
had
to interrupt.
to put a foot down on a few hills because some of them actually do just seem unrideable. They're steep and there's so much sand that I just don't know how any bike could.
yeah, I built up as much like momentum as I could, not speed necessarily, but like stability and momentum, pedal stroke. And as soon as you hit it, it's just one of those bog situations, even if I would loft my tire into it or whatever. And a couple of days before the ride, Otis had said, I don't know, you and I were in the shop maybe? I was in there with somebody that's going on the ride. I think it was you and I. But he was just like, if you get to a hill that you can't ride up, just get off. Walk your bike.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah, I
burn
was
yourself
there,
out.
yeah.
You
I was
know?
in the shop
trying
with
to
that, yeah.
force it.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I got to remember that. And as soon as I hit one of those, I was
Oh,
like,
we
you
got
know
Carl
what?
in here.
Oh, nice. Hey, Carl.
Hey. Oh yeah, the Pit of Despair is Carl.
Yeah.
Around like what did we decide? The Pit of Despair was like mile 130 or so.
And then just went on.
Yeah, for the rest of the.
But yeah, I was like, all right, there's no trophy for burning yourself out on a stupid hill
Yeah, because we
and
ride.
still having to get off.
We ride like that as a group of friends. Like we go out for like a 20-mile ride,
And you do it over and over until
the
you
goal
get
is
it.
not to put the foot down.
Yep.
Because we're not riding anywhere. We're not doing 204 miles.
That's right.
And we're not cyclocross racers. So if it's faster to run something, that doesn't matter. Like
Doesn't matter.
Our pride is in making it up something challenging, and it's just a dumb thing we like to do.
Yeah.
But you're right. When it comes to something like this, if walking is going to save you a bunch of energy.
I thought of it was the Pit of Despair area was like Honda Hills, if Honda Hills was 35 miles long
Yeah,
and just
yes.
all soft sand, and it made me think of rat rides where you come to a tough climb, some like super steep dirt mound, and everybody just lines up and does it again and again and again until either you're like, all right, enough, or people make it, and that's just a different spirit of the type of ride. Dave, you got two hands.
Can I have
buddy.
a mystic mama, please?
Yeah,
on, man.
I didn't hire my mom to run this stream, Dave.
Kim's ready for a beer too.
Dave, you can have a beer too. I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No, you're good.
was trying to discreetly order a beer. Now we're all talking about it.
Real quick. Rick was about to show him, but asked flats. No, they both clip in. They're both ride clipless. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, no open mirrors in the sink.
You can grab one of theirs. I mean, we're not going to
This
go
one,
through
yeah.
all these.
Oh, we will. We will. Don't worry.
We'll get into
one
Selma
of
talk real
these
quick.
for her.
Anyway,
Thank you. But yeah, so you just had to kind of be smart about it and try to conserve where you could.
it's good for people to give us that advice because we aren't racers and we aren't like endurance and we don't do we do challenging stuff, but not like time cutoff wise. It's like of our own choosing.
It is.
So to have someone just say some of the stuff that sounds super common sense, I
Right.
think is like, we need to hear it. You know?
It's
I
a really
100%
good
agree,
reminder,
and
yeah.
it could have made a big difference in my outcome for the race if, I mean, now I know, but
Yeah.
Nice.
I was so close.
so I mean, since we're talking about like the stages and the cutoff times and everything, let's just get into kind of how everyone's stacked up. So Micah and I here, we represent the most and least successful outcomes of the
We're both
race.
successful.
I would say most
So-
at least.
No,
Yeah,
but
Albert didn't start.
hey, if you don't start, you can't DNF.
That's right.
That's a
Here I
scratch at the
go, though.
beginning.
No.
Like, his
Albert,
name was
Albert didn't even bring a bike. How is he?
His name's on the list and it just says scratch.
Oh, there we go. There's the finish line. So
Here's the
so
finish
so
line.
spoiler, Micah finished before sunset.
Spoiler,
After all,
Spoiler, you don't know what this looks like.
hey, I kind of saw some of it. I saw some of it from the van. So Micah finished. What time? Do you know? Remember? roughly what time?
8:30. A little before
8:30.
8:30.
So and then what was 9 p.m. ish the sunset time? 8:59.
9:30.
Okay, 9:30. So decent amount before sunset. You can see the beach there, Lake Michigan, and obviously the kind of thing to do here is you start the ride by dipping your rear tire into Lake Huron and your front tire into Lake Michigan. Did you just dip your whole body into Lake Michigan?
did,
Yeah.
yes.
So you can do that too.
At the end of this video, I'll be
Some people
getting
just dip certain parts in.
dip what you can.
You're still on the bike. That's great.
Still going.
Oh, going all the way to the
And
lake.
if
That's
the
awesome.
audio was playing, you would hear me yell the F word when I get off this boardwalk. I was trying to ride all the way into the lake.
Ah.
Of course, I hit the sand and bogged
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
I was like, damn it, sand.
You just
got
have to
me
get that
one
last 20
time.
feet of sand. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted it so badly. Yep, that's it.
So
Families that are there trying to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, it's like, they're like, we picked the wrong day to have a picnic
and there's
out
and there's
here."
the mustache too for anyone that
Yeah.
has been deprived of it.
Right.
Oh, that's an awesome video.
It's funny. I can't help it. I like cringed for a second because like that's like Great Lakes beaches look like the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Oh,
put your
salt.
bike into that.
Yeah.
We're in Connecticut and Marge was like kind of riding along the coast and I'm like the Long Island Sound. I'm like that's salt water. Like, don't go there."
And real quick before you go on, Tony. So I get down to Lake Michigan, dip the bike in, set it down. You'll see the next video. So yeah, a little dirty and dusty out there.
Woo.
This nice woman who is photographing her husband grabbed the GoPro for me so I could go jump in. So I'm enjoying myself splashing around. I get out of the water and I hear from behind me. I just watch myself diving 'cause I love those lakes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That was the last we ever saw Micah. You swam all the way.
Towards the sunset.
And all of a sudden, that is now a salt lake. Yeah. So I get out of the water. I'm back up on the beach, and I hear from behind me, "You mother effer! You made me walk on the sand." Albert.
Oh, of course.
He had walked out to give me a beer on the beach. He's like, "You
Nice.
know I hate the sand." So, anyways.
So Micah had by far and away the fastest time of any of our group, finished around 8:30. John Duarte finished.
Yeah, I don't know where. This is news to me. Actually.
Yeah, he finished just before midnight, like 11:55 or so. And actually, John podiumed in his category. He got third in the Clydesdale. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that they have that category, first
Yes.
of all.
Yeah. The big boy category,
Yeah.
which of course Carl was in too. And then so Carl finished just like 6 minutes shy of 2 a.m. So about 1:54, and then it's a 2:30 cutoff.
So that's even more now that I hear that, because I thought it was 3, and that's not that it's that different, but
Right.
it's still squeaking in.
No, he was pushing. He had to be pushing hard at the end.
I
And,
was shocked at how quickly he finished that fourth segment, because when I heard what time he left, it was like, I mean, he'll be able to finish it, but not officially, and it's going to be just a long day on a bike.
Yeah, and so and I had a few check-ins with Carl along the way. We kind of leapfrogged each other, and so I can kind of attest to how hard he had to push at the end there. I did not finish. I ended up having to bail at mile 171 for kind of like one simple annoying reason, but really what ended up being like several factors had to, convalesce to make that thing happen. So basically,
Convalesce. That means getting well.
shit. That's a confluence.
Confluence, yeah, like a
What the-
river, like
Can you-
multiple rivers.
Dave, can you edit out me saying convalesce, please? So people in the chat don't.
I think
fact,
convalescence
never
is
play
like
that
where
word
old
again.
people go to die.
I didn't even mean that word. I meant coalesce.
I feel like we're
Coalesce.
now we're in Spaceballs.
Cut.
Like,
Cut.
we're at now.
Okay, so the mile. So what did I say? So mile 54 went in with about a 16.5 mile an hour average, and then mile 105, which was checkpoint 2, I went into with a 14 mile an hour average. So still like
Way on pace.
Still way on pace, and I had planned for like 15 to maybe 20 minutes per checkpoint, right? To just like rest for a few, refuel, charge lights and Garmin and all that stuff, phone, blah blah blah. So did not prepare well for the sand. The sand was like, I knew there would be sand, but I had no idea it would be literally like miles upon miles of deep sand. So in hindsight, I now realize like I mean, what Micah did was basically just ride every inch of sand except for the parts that were climby. But like he said, you saw all these footprints everywhere. There was a lot of hike-a-bike on this. And, like riding your bike a mile does not take very long. Walking a mile through sand takes a pretty long time. So I was trying to avoid that as much as possible. And we'll get into the gear in a second, but like I'm running slicks. At the time, I thought that might have had something to do with the challenges of the, you can see where good, my exact point of fit. Actually, I'm really glad you have this pulled up because I want to talk about Big M, but
Big MF.
yeah, Big MF. So every time there was sand, I was just falling farther and farther behind. So Carl caught up with me a little after checkpoint 2, and I had stopped in a group under a tree for some shade for a little bit. He was hurting with his knee. I was hurting with the heat exhaustion and stuff. We kind of just hung out for a minute, got each other moving again. And when we hit the first real big sandy section, I was just losing Carl at every bit of deep sand. So he had these really wide Vittoria tires that were slick down the middle, but with some decent grip on the sides. And it became like a point of like a thing that ended up driving me slowly insane over the course of the ride is I would just be alone in the sandy forest. and even though there are like literally like hundreds of tire tracks through the sand, I can see Carl's line because his tread pattern is so unique. And I'm like, how did Carl do this? And I'm trying to follow his lines, and then was like not able. I'm like, I crashed 3 times. I can't keep the bike under me. You're either your rear tire spinning out if you go too slow. If you're going too fast, you're getting the it's just a nightmare. And in hindsight, I spent way too much energy fighting the bike, and just saying a lot of words that are not in the Bible. In the forest, getting frustrated. And if I would have walked even more of it, I think I would have done better. And I actually learned later, I think a lot of people did walk. At one point, I remember I had to call John because I knew he was a good amount ahead of me. And I'm just like, how much more of this sand is there? And he answered the phone while also struggling through the sand. Yeah, he's like, I can hear him like heavy breathing, but he's like, I don't know, man, I just walked all of that. so maybe I should have walked more of it. But
he said, I don't know, I just walked all of it.
But so that being said, I got to checkpoint number 3 right after Carl had left it. The cutoff was 10:55, and I got there at 10:51. And I cannot emphasize at mile 169 how good I felt. Actually, like I was averaging 21 miles an hour on the gravel and pavement at this point. Like I was ready to finish this race, but 3 minutes at your support van before you got to leave the checkpoint.
Not good.
I basically had time to chug a bunch more electrolytes, get my water refilled, and then move on. That was it. Didn't have time for anything else. So. We're going through Big M. Oh my God! Thank you for bringing this meme up. I've been rattling around in my head.
All I could think of is Star Wars when you started saying that.
Oh God.
So yeah, yeah, fucking sand. What time is it? Are we allowed to swear yet on the stream?
I was yelled at already because it wasn't 10
shoot.
p.m. yet.
You don't have a clock on your computer
It's
when you're doing this?
9:52.
No wonder you go so late. You're not even monitoring the time anywhere.
Have you ever used a Windows
No,
computer? You
just
put the mouse over the bottom
Oh,
bar?
I don't. Mine just is. Mine stays there. I didn't know that was a thing. Anyway, what was I talking about?
You don't hide the tax bar.
I don't hide
tax
the
bar.
task bar now. That's a good one.
You started talking and I'm like,
We should give Carl his say. So yeah, 150. He mentioned he was hauling ass at the end. I have a video of him that I'll have to post, but he soared through the checkpoint or the finish line like he was like 30 seconds from the cutoff or something. He was just flying, but he beat it by like over a half hour. But so anyway, I'm in the forest in this what ended up being the longest stretch of sand, which was through Big M, that you had pulled up on the map there. And in hindsight, the responsible thing to do would have been to bail right at the checkpoint and then also save my support crew from having to come find me later.
Yeah.
But you do when you're trying to rationalize, when you just want to finish and you're rationalizing what to do in your mind, you're like, oh, I got it. I beat the checkpoint. And now I just got to do the last section. But 30 miles, 2.5 hours to ride 30 miles. Who can't do that? But
Yeah.
I think in the 1 hour between the final checkpoint and me dropping out, I think I only went like 2 miles in an hour. And it's because it's all walking. It's all just hiking up and down. And the frustrating part wasn't, having to walk those short uphills, whatever. Having to walk like a long, gentle descent that should just be coasting you into, that's what sucks because you can't even stay on the bike on the descents. And so then the real kicker happened and my headlight died in the middle of a dark forest at midnight. And
What's your phone at?
well, yeah. So my phone's at 5%. It's in airplane mode, and I told the support crew I'm going in airplane mode. I'll text you if I need you. So now and when I say my headlight died, I should clarify. If you've got like a Night Rider type light, they go into that like reserve power mode where they're extremely dim, but there is still technically light coming out. And so if you pull up, did you have my route pulled up where I ended? So that long straightaway at the end there, yeah, that's the one.
Good.
Yeah. So that long straightaway that just ends with my finish marker. When I get to that road, so that whole line you see right there, that's all deep, deep, deep sand, and it is pitch black. And let me tell you, at midnight in the middle of this national forest and all this sand, there are some weird critters out there. There are some bugs. There are some bugs I've never seen in my life. I don't know what they are. I encountered multiple coyotes through this section. And I was like, I know at one point I was so just like out of my mind that I remember making up a song about how some of the nighttime bugs were my friends, but not all of them. And I can't remember now how it went, but I was losing my mind at this point. And I got to that road you see at the end, and there was a van station there with like volunteers, like course volunteers, who were just monitoring people's progress. And that's where I'm like, I was just like, can you tell me how much of this fucking sand is left? Like,
you could even see the sand on this sand.
I cannot.
Crossing the road.
Yeah. Now they did tell me later that I was one of only like 2 people that they saw roll out of here on their bike. Everyone else walked out of this section.
Nice.
But
Wow.
so I was at least proud of that. But
You're a true rat. Though.
but here's here's the thing. Like the big math seemed easy. Like 30 miles, 2.5 hours. Who can't do that? But then it's like, okay, but how much more of it is sand, and how much longer is my light gonna last? And
it's just all about the sand.
and if I'm in the middle of the woods and my light totally dies and my phone dies, I literally have no way to tell anybody where I am. I don't know where I'm at myself. I would have to walk like 20 miles to like that was the only option.
And it's
so it
already
was just
1 in the
like
morning.
it's just like. And I guess like I should also give context. Micah can attest to this. I had like no real preparation for this ride.
Yeah.
I know like John and Carl both worked with trainers that they hired. I think Micah made some kind of a bargain with like a forest witch or something. Yeah, to get the kind of speed that he had. But I really like was.
Do you follow Mike on Strava, by the way?
I know he rides a ton. He rides more than any of the rest
He
of
did
us.
200
but
miles for fun a couple weeks ago.
he rode a 220-mile ride in prep for this. Yeah.
I just chew on horse adrenaline, yeah. I have like a couple horse clans that I just chew
A
on.
little adrenochrome.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Don't worry
But
about
I went into this thinking I might not have this kind of mileage in me, and I'm not prepped for it. So at the end of the day, whatever I do, I'm fine with. But it was really frustrating to finish with that much like gas left in the tank, knowing that man, I could ride 30 miles so easily right now, but it's like it would be so irresponsible or potentially dangerous to do it, and so I just had to call it. And so I hear I'm literally like only a few miles from the last checkpoint, but when I call the support van, they're 35 minutes away.
So he had to chill.
Oh,
Yeah, so I did chill.
no-
Oh, and that was another
no direct
that was
way.
another detail is I mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah, you could see there's nothing.
Yeah.
nothing.
So
Yeah,
right
zoom out a little
right
further.
here was right there was the checkpoint. So
Okay,
all
got
of
it,
this
yeah.
took me like an hour.
Okay, so this is the checkpoint.
Yeah, that
I can
trailhead.
Big M, yep.
On the
That's
internet,
it
I
right
can't see you
there.
pointing at.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. But that is that's the checkpoint, and everything you see going north and then west of there took me a whole hour to traverse, partially on the bike, partially just walking through sand.
I like how where this dead ends is that. Would you have kept going straight?
No,
you
actually,
would hang
you
a
turn
right.
left there and
I was
go
gonna say, 'cause this-
south on that
Because you
road.
can see on this side, it looks like there's kind of a
Yeah, on the
sandy
other
thing.
side,
On the
Yeah.
other side,
so
it's like,
much.
But I think you go south on that road and then you just get back.
bang back
Yeah, you
on.
just
Oh,
right
then you're back in the
right back
sand here.
on the there's more and there's a lot more sand and gravel left at that
So,
point. But
When Carl called me, when he got to the Big M checkpoint, and so because we were concerned for you, so we were all talking like because they had tried to call you a couple of times, but it hadn't rung through.
no, it had.
Okay.
My phone screen was so sweaty and my gloves were
you
so
couldn't-
sweaty. I was trying to like
Yeah.
swipe to answer and like I finally was just like fuck this. I put
So
my
yeah,
phone away.
I'm talking to them. Nicole's like, I've tried to call Tony. I can't get through to him. I'm worried about him. I don't know where he is. And Carl's like, yeah, I lost him about 10 miles ago in the sand, and I don't know. I think he's a worm now. He's got the spice. So,
it's Tremors 5.
and just for those of you that know Carl, we love you. Those of you that know Carl's always at 11, and
Yeah.
it's just like, ugh. So
I mean, his enthusiasm convinced all of us to do this stupid thing in the
Yes.
first place. Yeah.
So he gets me on the phone. I guess I was on speaker. I don't know. But he's like, all right, I'm about to take off. What's ahead of me, Micah? And I'm thinking, like, I don't want to tell this guy what's ahead of him.
No.
I'm not going to. I'm going to round the
Yeah.
corners here a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you got some single track. And it's very chill. It's flowy single track. There's roots. Watch out for those. The descents are very sandy, so careful on those, especially in the dark. And I'm just like, soft shoeing it, you know? He's like, is there more sand? And I was like, yeah, there's a lot more sand. He's
It's
like,
a little. I'd say I would run with. It's a little soft.
I was like, it's exactly like what you just came out of. He was like, all right, I just needed to get my head wrapped around that. let's go, let's do this. And it just like took off. And he just ripped it. But yeah, it was every turn, like you would think like, well, we're through that, and you would get to something a little more hard packed. But then for a while, there was like soft pea stone gravel on top of sand because they thought like, hey, this will make it better.
Yeah.
It just meant you got grip to like burrow yourself in.
I'm trying to think of how the winners finished in their time, but also how you finished in your time dealing with this.
So I amazingly, I guess this is where we transition to tire talk a little bit, but there I am at the startup, lined up with everybody, a little worried about my tire width. I had 45 millimeter, what are they, the GRS ones, the Schwalbe GRS ones. And I was a little concerned because I thought, oh man, these things are just going to be like riding an ice skate into that sand. They were great on all the gravel and everything, and I really did just kind of push just under threshold the whole time. It was hot, and in the hot section, the gravel was also very white, and so it was reflecting up a lot of heat. I got a little woozy in that, and I just started eating everything in my bag and recouped. My big thing that I did was I kept 3 bottles on the bike, each with the Element additive that's like 1,000 milligrams of sodium and like a bunch of other stuff in them. And so I would have those, and then 2 disposable water bottles in my jersey, and with just clean water. And when I would drink some of that, I would pour some of that on my head, put it back in my jersey. And so I would just keep rotating that. When I got to the sand, I was shocked at those tires. First of all, the weight of the bike was so light because I have a titanium Otso Warrican, and so the bike was light. I have wide mountain bike handlebars on it, and so I had a perfect stance on that. I just kind of shot my butt back, so I had a lot of leverage, and I would drop down to a reasonable gear that was easy to pedal and just get my cadence going pretty fast and just beat some eggs through it. And that spun me through. And the tires have kind of a V-shaped tread on them, and they acted almost like paddles. So they would just displace the sand and get just enough that even if I got a little out of alignment, the bike is so light that I was able to pick up the front tire and like place it where I needed to and get to a spot and go. And then I started to learn that if you look for where there's a little bit of grass on the sand or there's a lot of crushed leaves along the shoulders of the sand, when it was really soft, I would ride on top of the leaves, and that was just enough stability to keep going.
The grass in the middle of the sand was a big help,
Yes.
but they would just end suddenly, and that
It
was
would.
you couldn't count on it.
I'm really surprised. So this is Jan Hein, who owns Renair's. He always talks about this like philosophy of like everyone talks about tread pattern and how, and so I would think like just guessing without hearing what you guys are saying that you made the right tire choice because like he says, gravel slips on gravel.
Yep.
Like if you're riding dry gravel, tread pattern doesn't matter. Gravel slips on gravel, and he rides. This is a guy who has fastest time known.
Yeah.
And he must be I think he's in his mid to late 50s now. Like, and is still breaking these endurance records and all this kind of stuff. And one of his whole philosophies is slick tires most of the time.
Yeah.
If you're not in mud. So it's really interesting because I would think sand would be the same concept. Sand slips on sand, but it turns out apparently that's not the.
I think you got to have something that gives you a little purchase.
I think so, too.
So I think it's weight of bike. I have done a good amount of mountain biking. I would not call myself a great mountain biker, but I have experienced mountain biking. So I do understand that like slow maneuvering, when you're down to 4 to 6 miles per hour, how do you stay in the saddle, stay clipped, and balance yourself so you can almost come to a stop and still get a movement and then crank as hard as possible and go. So those things helped. I thought a lot about the time on the Fool's Loop where the road was so bombed out and rough, you just were constantly picking a line. You were going 3 miles an hour, picking a line, climbing these things. And that's what you had to do on this because, you'd find a great line and it would die immediately. So you had to like find another line and just keep snaking your way through it.
And normally, like in gravel or mud, like you can look for other riders' lines and
Yes.
kind of trust them.
Didn't
In the
help.
sand, that's actually a liability because the deeper the rut from other people riding through it, the more it's going to pull at the front of your bike. I actually found that if there were little
We're good.
if there were little sections that were actually like fresh, those were a little bit easier to push through.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, those aspects of it helped. And then as soon as I would get back to any sort of solid ground, I would just try to push as hard as I could.
Brad said sand is just smaller gravel.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Carl had mentioned before that he rode almost everything. and
I
then-
saw it. I
so-
witnessed it. He did, yeah.
So then he said he had semi-slick 29 2.25 Vittoria Terrenos. Huh.
They
Leg long
have
bike.
really serious shoulders on them.
And totally slick down the middle.
Yeah.
So still super fast on pavement. And I'll say, like, I guess we can get to the bikes if you want, but
Yeah, why don't we take a
yeah,
look at your
Let's
bike,
do
Tony,
that.
or-
We can start with mine because I think I had one of the more unique tire situations there. Should I like come over here or just
Yeah, you can,
okay?
yeah, you can go over and Dave will camera you while you talk about yours, then we'll switch with Micah's.
We've never had the Space Horse here before, so
Didn't we? Oh,
Nope.
we didn't bring it.
no,
on
we
the
were
stream.
going to and never got around to it.
Oh, okay, good.
But
Because we had talked, we've shown it on the stream from your photos.
right from pictures, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So here it's still covered in all the Michigan dust. I've not wanted to look at this bike in the last couple days, but
You have not wanted to look at it.
no,
Yeah.
no. So I ran the Renair Switchback Hills, which are 650 by 48 slicks, totally slick. Actually, Carl pulled out the calipers the night before the race, and we measured these, and they actually inflate up to 53.6
Really?
on these wheels. So
Because they're wide rims.
and it might be that these tires are defective because the reason I have them is Otis sold them to a customer at Dirty River, and they were too wide for the frame and were rubbing, and they were takeoffs. And so he gave them to me to use for this. So
So these are endurance casing Renair.
endurance casing, and I've always run the standard before, so these are a tiny bit heavier. I ran them at 32 psi. In hindsight, for this race, I might have run them a little lower. I might have run like 28 if I could do it again.
Yeah, measuring out to 53 in sand, I would.
Yeah, definitely could be lower. So I will say, obviously on the pavement, these were amazing. And even on most of the gravel, especially the fast gravel, this is what I would pick every time for the reasons we were just talking about. But in the sand, I don't know how much of this. It seems like everyone was sliding, and like we said, there were footprints everywhere. I know a lot of people were walking. I know a lot of people in our crew had to walk. It sounds like Micah and Carl were able to ride most of it. I know John walked a bit. I don't know how much better I would have done with. I imagine some grip on the outside here would have helped. That might be one thing I do differently next time is knobbier tires. I used to run I can never remember the names of all the Renair. They're also similar.
The Ridge.
The Hurricane Ridge is the 700C version. I used to run the 650 version of that. That
That's
same
what
tread
I run
pattern.
on my
Yeah.
gravel bike.
That's what I rode at Black Fork. All the other events I've done this year. That might have been the way to go for this ride. I don't know. But this is what I picked. Actually, it's funny. One of the race organizers stopped me and Carl at one point. He was just kind of sweeping around in the van around the 120 mile mark and commented on how insane these tires. He'd never seen slick tires this big.
I bet a lot of people haven't, because I mean that is kind of it's an old school thing for old like Tour de France bikes and stuff like that, but not even this wide.
Yeah.
That's like we're going back to like the 20s.
Right,
Last
right.
time people were doing wide slick tires. Like,
Yeah, and it's like most of the people you can imagine at a race like this, they're riding carbon bikes with like, what would you say, 38s to 42s?
Yeah.
Something like that. Semi-knobbies. But there's not much to talk about setup-wise beyond that. I mean, like, the drivetrain on this bike is, I got a 42 up front, 1x, 1146 in the back.
That's a 46. It looks huge.
It's a 46. I was actually locked out of this gear for most of the race and could only use the next size down, the 42, I guess. I think at one point something must have happened to slightly bend the hanger. I need to get it sorted out. I couldn't really re-index it on the fly, so I couldn't get into the lowest gear. But you don't really need it. This is a pretty flat route. It's 6,500 feet-ish of elevation over 204 miles. So I don't remember. I mean, I know I didn't see the last 30 miles of the course, but I don't really remember a single climb being memorable at all.
There is one just after where you were. There is
Okay.
one steep climb.
Oh, coming out of the river valley?
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
nothing for anybody that's ridden in Summit County.
Yeah,
yours
so
says 5,500 feet for your 171 miles.
So I guess in the last 30 miles there would have been another 1,000 feet. Does that sound right?
Mine ended up only being right around where yours was, but I never trust
Okay.
the Wahoo, to be honest with you.
They're
Yeah,
awful.
that stuff's all.
Carl says 6,300.
Yeah, I
on his
think mine
phone.
was still
There,
in the
that might be
5,000s.
closer then, yeah. So none of that was an issue. I was clipped in. Somebody asked earlier if we were running flats. I don't know if I might have had a little more confidence in the sand if I'd been on flats. I definitely, I mean, I did eat it 3 times. I mean, and falling in the sand's no big deal. It's soft. But
Carl and Micah both rode clipless though too, right?
yes, John rode flats. So
John rode flats.
yeah. B17 special, since everyone always wants to talk saddles on your stream.
Yeah.
Love this thing. Did not have an ounce of ass pain at the end of this ride. Nothing really else to say about that.
By
But
far the longest ride you've ever done.
the longest ride I'd ever done before this was like 108 miles or something. So yeah, no issues. Saddle. Actually, one thing I did to prep for this didn't involve riding, but I did get a bike fit a couple weeks before. Changed a little bit of the setup that I had going. Saddle height's different. I found out one of my legs is longer than the other, so I have shims in my left shoe now. All that kind of stuff.
Because I know some people just cheat the saddle one way when they have.
Well, my saddle's already been getting crooked. Otis can tell you all about that. But so we discovered it's because I was compensating by riding harder on one side. But
That is an interesting thing about Brooks. They will wear if you have a shorter leg. I have on the Viscount over there. It's from Stu, and he has a shorter leg, and it's been slowly working its way back since I rode it, but it's offset because of.
yeah, I mean, if you came and looked at this from the front, it's like even the front of it is like tweaked like that a little bit. Yeah, but so that was a big help. I was super comfortable. I didn't really have any discomfort. The most fatigue you get, I think we all agreed was in your shoulders from just having to plow into the sand. But otherwise, I kind of have all the the brands you'd expect are represented here. It's like I have a sampling. I got one Swift bag, I got one Revelate bag, I got one Fuzzy bag, I got one Topo bag. But tried to run a light-ish setup on the front of the bike, and this is also, I think, something I could have done differently and maybe finished, is I was really worried about nutrition and hydration, and you can see I ran 3 bottles on the frame, 2 had electrolytes, 1 had clean water, and then I had another one up here in a feed bag that had electrolytes. This bag over here, actually, wait, I haven't unpacked yet. All my snacks are still in here if anyone's hungry. This feed bag was all food. The bag up front was like the essential, on the bike tools for, flats, multi-tool, derailleur hanger, the spare brake pads that Yonda was making fun of us for. All that stuff's in here. What I decided to prioritize like critical items, like things that my body could fail at or things that my bike could fail at out on the road, to have with me on the bike, and everything else could sit in the support van. In hindsight, had I just packed either a spare headlight or I had a battery pack, we had recharge gear, we'd get to the rest stop, charge our stuff. If I just packed the battery bank in this bag or something, I could have solved that problem and
I was going to ask
pushed
that
on.
without
So
trying to be insulting, because I'm like,
it's an obvious thing, right? Yeah.
it's like the
yeah.
phone death, and I would be worrying about my bike computer, because I'm like, if I don't record this to Strava,
Right,
why
and
am
it's
I wasting my
well,
time?
well, on the bike computer, the bike computer got a hefty recharge at checkpoint 2, so that was at no danger. That was at no danger of failing. I was actually kind of shocked that the headlight failed, because in my mind, I didn't need to turn it on until closer to like 9:45 p.m. I figured my initial kind of plan, I thought like finishing 12:30 a.m. would be like conservatively like a good target.
Yeah.
I've run that headlight for that time. We do that all the time, riding at night, right? So
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah, winter. I mean, the sun sets 4:30 around here, and we go out and ride at 6, so it's
Exactly.
on for 4 hours. Right?
Yeah, and so that kind of surprised me, and I do think I was running at one brightness level higher than I usually do, so that contributed. But yeah, so it's like one of those stupid mistakes to not have a way to get your light in order at that point. But it's just like, again, your nerves are running. I had 3 minutes at that last checkpoint.
Yeah.
My strategy was that all that stuff got dealt with at every checkpoint. It wasn't going to be an issue because I planned to have 15, 20 minutes at least. And that's just, if I had, had a better strategy for the sand, I could have then executed my strategy for charging stuff, and I could have had the time and the gear to finish. But I wanted to finish really bad, but not bad enough to, again, be completely stranded 20 miles
Yeah.
from civilization
Danger.
in the
Don't put
forest.
yourself
So.
in danger.
So don't do that. It's not worth it.
They're asking what your bars are.
These are
think they're
the
cow
salsa cow chippers.
All
I'm going to say they're 42s.
Someone said Venture Max, but Venture Max
No.
have rise in them. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Perfect.
these salsa cow chippers, salsa stem, VO hubs, VO crank,
Are these
velocity, blunt SS rims.
SS rims?
I took all the stickers off because
Looks good on this
they
bike.
didn't they didn't really suit the look of this frame. And then I think that's everything. We talked about it all, but
I think Yinzer had brought it up a while ago. Anything different you're running for this particular ride versus like a short ride?
So let me ask that question because you're not mic'd. So, Yenzer House, as David just told me, did you change anything for this ride compared to your normal set? Did you change anything for the ride, basically?
I do not normally run a bell, and no, I'm kidding. No, I didn't. This is 100% my normal setup. I don't normally run 2 feed bags, and normally one of them just has a beer in it. So 1 feed bag and the handlebar bag is my normal setup.
By the way, this guy finished Black Fork with a beer in his feed bag, and I'm like, you rode 6,000 feet of elevation with that beer in the bag? Why did you?
If I got a mechanical and had to call someone to pick me up, what am I going to not drink a beer while I'm waiting for? So normally I always have a beer on me. I did not have a beer during. Maybe if I'd had a beer during the coast to coast, I would have finished. But and then when this was in,
You've never gone that long sober.
yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, that was what I could have trained at, maybe a little bit. What's beeping and beeping
It's
over
just
here?
the camera
Okay.
stopping and starting. But our mics are still going, so.
When I have this in touring mode, which it'll be in a few weeks at the end of July, for my next leg of the upstate New York to NYC trip, I'll have a basket with a big Roadrunner bag on it. But this is my normal setup. I had put a smaller chainring on the front for Black Fork, and then went back to the bigger one for this race. If anyone's ever considering doing something like this, I would definitely not worry about the elevation. I would worry about, like we've been talking about, I'd worry about tires. And honestly, we should get Micah's bike in here, but I mean, he ran flat bars, and I think that we can talk maybe about how that might have even been a
I have to say, I think
benefit here. But
I might go something like, well, I guess they call them half frames, like a half frame bag in there to just have even more supply. Because again, like weight, it doesn't sound like it's going to be an issue on a ride bike.
yeah, and this is already a pretty heavy bike to begin with. But yeah, you're right. That would have been an option, like one right across here, is what you're saying? Yeah. And that's what, so John ran a half frame bag, a small saddle bag, and I think one of these wedges, and that was it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it comes down to, like, you really have to, these kinds of races with time cutoffs are like really math equations, and like it's about how fast you can ride each section, knowing what's in there, and a big part of it, I think, is what you decide to put on your bike versus in the van. And
Well, I would say too, like you did it for your first time, and the only thing you've done like this. So, I ran like before I stopped running. I remember running a half marathon, and then like after that one, I was like, oh, now I know what this. Now I get it, and now I got to do it at least one more time.
Yes.
To know what I can do.
And now,
Yeah.
at the same time, like I was with 3 other people who have never ridden conditions like that and did finish. But for me,
You're just not tough.
I just sucked. I just sucked. No. For me personally, I do think like had we replaced.
So
we
I'm
don't.
wrong.
We,
It's
we,
not
we
about
don't.
experience.
No.
It's
But
your
you're absolutely right. I'm just saying.
You're just not very.
I'm agreeing with you by saying for me that's absolutely. I don't know if I could have finished this without trying it once, because we just don't have this kind of terrain around here.
Yeah.
I would have gladly, if you replaced every inch of sand with the big, giant, thick railroad gravel that we ride all the time around here, would have had no problem with that.
Yep.
I mean, once you know,
Yeah,
I guess
would have
you.
fixed 3 flats and been done before sunset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And actually, it's funny. Like, I got a text message in the group chat we had going at one point, like in the evening, that Micah had sent, where he said, "Ride your ride," and that was exactly like the right like headspace to be in. At the time, I saw that and I was like, "Fuck you, Micah! I'm trying to get this fucking sand." but that was like exactly what. So had to fall short of.
I was drinking a beer while I sent that to you, just to let you know.
I'm sure. Yeah.
He was kidding. He had already dried off.
I was climbing out of a sand pit for the third time.
Mid massage, and I was
Yeah.
just like,
Full
what's
repose on
something
the beach,
thoughtful I could send?
But
What can try and tell these peasants to might make them finish so I can like go back to the Airbnb. I'm not trying to stand here all
What's
night.
weird is I was mid lap dance. Actually, that wasn't meant for you guys.
Micah actually finished ahead of some of the relays.
Oh, you beat some
Yeah.
of the relays.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow! I guess it makes sense that
didn't think about
that you'd
that
think the relay people, the people with fresh legs at mile 1,
Yeah.
halfway through, should be able to finish faster
Those
than
people are
anybody
just
else.
not friends anymore.
Right.
I've done a couple of the. I've done twice the Akron Marathon. They have a relay, so people run between 4 and 6 miles depending on what leg you are. And I get out there, and like I've always been on teams that were just like no offense, like okay, but a
Yeah.
slower pace than I would run a 5 miler. And so I get out there and I'm just like crushing these people running the full marathon, and I feel so bad. You know, like, I'm somebody who could run like a few 7-minute miles, and there's people out there, and I'm at like running with people who are running the marathon at like a 9-minute mile pace, and like a hill comes up, and I'm like, oh, let's do this. And they must
yeah.
just hate my guts. And the numbers are a different color too, so like fucking relay dude. You know, like,
Well, when we were riding, so I mentioned we were in about a 20-person peloton at the beginning. John and I, we were actually leading that group for a long time. And at one point, we stopped to pee, and like lost them, and we caught up with them a couple miles later, and we were like, we actually need to not be in this group because we keep having a tendency to want to get out in front of it, and we're gonna burn ourselves out. But there was a girl in that group on a fat bike who was just like, you know, you said something about like Carl's enthusiasm level earlier. Like she was like twice that low. She was just like, let's get. And she was gonna ride 200 miles on a fat bike, and she was riding 20 miles an hour in a pace line on it.
And you know what? That woman, she finished like 15 minutes ahead of me.
Did she really?
Really?
Wow.
She had done Unbound,
That's amazing.
A few weeks
really?
before. And everybody would ask her about her tires as she would come up on them. And finally, I saw her later in the ride after the forest. And I was like, so every time someone asks you about your tires, are you just laughing in your head about what they're about to experience in the forest? She's like, you know, that's right.
She
just
had
cooked it.
She had a very humble answer for that in
Really?
our group.
She
She
knew.
said oh, it's a little harder to pedal.
Yeah, I followed her on Strava after the ride, and she's putting in 300-mile weeks on that bike. So
really.
she's well
That'll do it.
acquainted with it and super strong. Yeah, it's really cool.
I get the GoPro. I don't know.
Is the GoPro not powered? Oh, just on the side button. Hold down the side button now. I deactivated and reactivated. So we should be good.
I think at this angle,
Sorry, Micah, go ahead.
You good? You want to go in?
There we go.
I'm
GoPro's
just
back.
gonna grab another beer. Anyone need another beer?
I'll do it.
Could use
over
one.
here.
Yep.
Micah, what do you want?
The Bodie.
Can I do something different? These blow up when you.
You want one of these or a masthead?
Sure.
Kim,
I'm good.
Dave.
no, all good.
Should be fine.
Sneak by. Sneak by, as we say in the Midwest. Nope, just gonna sneak by.
Just gonna sneak on by. Sweet. Still have all the grit on here too. I haven't washed
Oh,
it.
nice.
Kinda will
But
be
you've been
happy.
riding since too. Oh,
Yeah.
these are the tires. Otis has been talking about these.
They're so fast.
So these are the Schwalbe G1s.
Yep.
Dave, can you get us a little close up on those?
They're the G1R.
Where we,
Tim.
Oh, thanks.
There you go. I can give you that.
Thank you.
Maybe before you go through your bike, maybe I'll pull up or you could start talking about it. I'll pull up a photo so we could just online of a stock photo of the Schwalbe G1s. Because I am really intrigued by these.
Yeah. So these are. I had the whatever Ridge, the 48
Oh, is that a-
700C.
that's not Fleecer, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, not Fleecer Ridge, whatever they
Hurricane
were.
Ridge?
Maybe those are the
No,
Hurricanes.
that's 42s.
Okay.
Oh, here, this
Juniper?
is it, right?
Juniper.
No,
No, Juniper.
that's
That's
the-
what I ran. That's the 650, I
Okay.
think.
That's the Speed Dot. It's the G1R.
I just
So I
kind of
had,
want to show you guys these tread patterns because it's kind of interesting.
yeah, I had those.
Yonda says, "Wash your shit."
I had those on this, and I mean, those are great tires, and they're so cushy and supple and just awesome for everything. But I've been told a bunch at how quickly they roll. I just have never found that to be true. I
On the
mean,
Rares?
Yeah, I think it's quick for the tread they have,
Yeah.
but I've always felt a little bit of drag on them. So my plan was actually to go with the tires that Carl put on his bike. Nope, not those ones.
Now these are what John was running.
Those are what John was
Yeah.
running.
There
So-
it is.
Those are the ones. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a zoom in, but okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Just so you can see, guys, here's the tread pattern we're talking about because it won't show up on camera, but super fine, but deep kind of.
Deep and kind of a prominent V pattern.
Yeah, very prominent V-peg slopes.
So yeah, I'd wanted to put on the Vittorias that Carl had, but the frame limitation wouldn't allow that size of tire. So these are my backup option. And once the guys at the shop put them on and I went out on them, I was like, oh my God, these are so fast. And these are the same tires that Ames McLaughlin has on her bike. And she's been winning every race she runs.
Yeah, winning gravel races. Our friend Ames
Yeah.
in the women's category has won a number of races and at least she's podiumed in every race she's showed up.
Yeah.
To. So
Yeah.
she's also an amazing athlete. It's not just.
It's not the tires, but yeah, it made me feel a little encouraged about them though. So yeah, I immediately felt like the speed and efficiency with these, but I was really concerned about the width of them with the terrain we were going to face. But kind of a full bike tour, because I don't think I've had my bike on the show yet either. It's the Otzo Warwick titanium. This is how I set it up. So this Panda wedge bag, seat post bag, Ortlieb frame bag, and then a fuzzy bag. I kept my nutrition or my water bottle in here, and then I would keep some like food in the little sack, electrolytes in all the bike water bottles, tool keg with a tube and levers and such in there with a chain, one of the wolf tooth chain tools in there with some quick links. Got carbon cranks. I think I have a 40 on this. Yeah, a 40. And then this is the 10 to 50, I believe.
Looks like it.
Clips. Not a flat top
That would be
chain.
a 10 then, would it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's 11 to 50. It's whatever the wide range cassette is.
Yeah. I said that off. I thought
Does
if
it
it
say
has
on
the
here?
10, it always uses the flat top chain, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not a SRAM expert.
Okay.
Someone will correct us.
Sound off in
Sure.
the comments if you know.
Yeah, sound off,
but-
please. Got the Brooks
We're natural.
B17. And then,
Couple
yeah,
Brooks.
got a couple Brooks. Whoops.
Let's drop some.
Got the Thompson seat post. And the bars are, I think that's called the far bar, the salsa far bar.
Salsa Farbar. So those are mount. I didn't realize how me and Dave were watching your footage, and I was like, and I've always been surprised that you've decided to go with flat bars on this, but also fat bar. They are wider, and that kind of makes more sense because I was at first thinking like you were riding flat bars that were just kind of skinny, but this does give you a pretty good position there, huh?
Yeah. The first bars I had on this, I don't know if you remember those, they were not Carver. Yeah, they were Carver.
Carver.
Carver 800 millimeter titanium bar, super wide. That was the one I wiped out on
Oh, yes.
a couple of times. And it was so wide and the bike is so light that any sort of hand adjustment just threw me out of
Did I do
out of balance and I wrecked the bike.
Off like a wild horse.
So I switched to the far bar, a little narrower, and that made a big difference. Much more stable, and it's got just a slight angle back, like maybe a
Little
15
bit of a
degree,
sweep, yeah.
which is about my wrist angle. So that worked out really nicely. Got a frame pump on this side, and
Oh, nice.
so yeah, I kept all my nutrition in the frame bag, phone, wallet, and AirPods and stuff like that in this wedge bag. And that was nice to be able to have all of those things. I didn't actually have this headlight on here, but Tim, this is the one that,
The big fat one.
the big fat one. I had that in reserve in case I would need it.
So if you were getting late into the ride, you could be like, hand me the
Let's
one
swap
with the
it
big
out.
power bank. Yeah.
Because then also, like, what I love about these O-lights is that because they're USB-C, you can charge your phone off of it. if you have the right cable, you could charge your computer. You could, so you can do that on the fly. And with this massive battery, you can really charge a lot of stuff without worrying. I did not have to use my headlight on the ride. So that wasn't an issue.
Well,
But
could have loaned it to somebody else. Maybe.
yeah, I should have left it on the trail. If I would have left it on the trail for you, it would have been
Little
fine.
smoke signal.
Yeah,
Do you need
But-
this up here?
I
What's that?
wouldn't.
Do you need this up here?
I was just looking at the questions that Yinzer was asking. I can talk
Oh, yeah.
about that in a little bit.
So these are also the Blunt SS, but 700s. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything about the bike. The wax chain to get to that was magnificent.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's
I agree.
changed it's changed everything
Still
for me.
almost- Still almost no grit.
Yeah, and Yonda, sorry, I haven't washed the bike since the ride.
Me either.
If Yinzer's still in here, he asked me every stream like a little bit, and this is what me and Dave were streaming, and I kept saying I'm like, and like worrying about all the nuance, and it's like I think that we all have that when we do something different, we worry about. And Carl too, Carl like being very intense on like the nuances, of the wax chain. We run our lube chains with wet lube like shit all the time.
All the time.
We get home, they sit overnight, they're
Yep.
like, shoot, we didn't lube it, and we just re-lube it and wipe
Yeah.
it down real quick. So I'm like, people like, we got to stop like worrying about like the idea of like you need to wax your chain perfectly because we don't lube our chain perfectly.
Right, exactly.
I think it's still better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like we're about to go on tour, and I'm just gonna bring a couple little bottles.
That's
and
it.
If I need it, and I'm also gonna bring a tiny bottle of wet lube. If it
If
pours
you
for a
have
couple
to,
days,
do it.
Start lubing it normally, like But anyways, go. Yeah.
That's my point exactly. Is I am not good at wet lube. I always over lube, and then it gums up my cassette, gums up my crank. It gets all kinds of junk trapped in my pulleys, and doesn't run efficiently. Inevitably, I'm going to get a flat. I got to change it. Now my hands are disgusting, and so having the wax chain, it's quieter, it's more efficient, and there's like a logical step-by-step process to maintain the wax chain that I understand. And so I'm more likely to do that process. So yeah, I've got just over 5,000 miles on the bike, and on the wax chains, it's about 3,000 miles. So I have two chains that I've been running, and I reset one completely. The others, the other one, so they both were just like, drip waxed for maintenance. And then I totally reset one, cleaned it, re-waxed it. And that's the one I ran on the race. But I just haven't had any issues. If it rains, just wipe it down, let it dry, touch it up.
And I think it like with the drip wax, they say like 4 hours minimum of drying. They recommend like a full day.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm thinking on tour. If we're out and it's raining all day, we're gonna get to the campsite. I'm gonna wipe it off. I'm gonna hit it with the drip.
Do
lube.
that first.
It'll be dry, but before the morning.
Yep.
And then we've got a lot of other comments in here, and I don't mean this as like a negative, but I'm taking this as something to remember for myself because I get stuck in my own ways. We get a lot of older people who will be like, "We used to wax chains, and like it works great, but it's a pain in the ass." And then I'm like, "Pain in the ass." I'm like, "You're talking about paraffin wax, right?"
Right.
These are not the products Silka
It's upgraded.
and these other brands
Yeah.
are making. They have these additives, like they're it's a different thing now. Like the technology, I know there were people using paraffin wax for decades. This is not what we're using now.
It's a Teflon-based wax, or
It'd be like
added
saying
wax.
I tried index shifting in 1984 and it sucked, and I've never got so I just always friction shift.
Yep.
We've upgraded the technology.
Yeah.
Shimano's STI levers and SRAM's levers work very, very well now. Like it is not the original campy index shifting that someone tried in 1984.
I mean, I'll also say pain in the ass is like constantly buying new chains and then cleaning them perfectly and immediately getting them completely disgusting again. And like
Yes.
I'm sold on this too now. Thanks, Carl. Yonda's
thank
losing
you,
his
Carl.
mind in the chat right now over us just now getting on
Do
board
not
with this.
mix Tim. Do not mix Tim.
We do have, we do have
Just keep putting wax.
oh, do not.
Hey, Ames is here. Hey, Ames.
We got Ames.
What's
yeah.
up, Ames?
Yeah. That was a lot of Ames. Every time we get together, it always
a
seems to
lot
go
of
back
lube
to
talk.
Go back to lube. Well, I mean, the other thing, to Tony's point is, every 2,000 to 2,500 miles, I would be replacing a chain, often a cassette, and a chain ring, because I would just beat them to crap. You know,
Yeah.
we're riding through terrible things. I ride a lot every week, and so that gets really expensive, but also just ecologically, it feels awful to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to take this big hunk of metal and just throw it away because now it's worthless.
Yeah,
And
there's chains hanging all over in here. Yeah.
and this thing has been shifting great all through. Now, I'm sure when I bring it into the shop for a cleanup, things are going to be out of spec, and it's probably right on the verge of needing things to be replaced. But looks like it froze up. But for that 200-mile ride, I never had a misshift. It didn't
Yeah.
click. It didn't have issues. And I'll take that all day, you know, if it means that I got to bust the crock pot out and
Yeah.
warm up some wax.
And on the Silka, like the latest video, he's talking about like 8,000 miles on the chain and cassette.
Awesome.
And like, you know, when I brought that up last time, they're like, well, he's paid to say that. And I'm like,
It's true, I think.
it's not
yeah.
what they're doing. Like, that's not what, I get that. But Silka is not like, this isn't McDonald's. This isn't some guy pretending like French fries are good for you. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
right.
they're just like, and they say like, in all their videos too, when you watch them, they're like, he'll be like, our product. He was like, this is what we've spec'd it at. And he's like, not even trying to sell, he's trying to sell you on wax. He's like, buy any wax. Like, it's all better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't feel like, I
He's
don't get
an
that.
evangelist for the process,
Yeah.
not for the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes a good company. And it's, the proof is in the pudding. I found it I'm finding it as I don't have the miles you do yet, but
You will. Yeah, and I don't know. It's, I guess, use whatever you want to use as long as you have a chance to get out and ride and enjoy it. But this is definitely the thing that's worked for me. To the point of when you drip wax, I noticed I'd use some of the squirt that was given out for free at the Black
Yeah.
Fork. And when I did that ride up to Conneaut and back, like 225 miles, I had drip waxed to touch it up, and I didn't give it long enough to settle, and wax did build up on the pulley,
yeah.
and I had some drag there. But when you do it properly, it doesn't happen. So,
Yeah. And it's pretty easy to watch the pulleys. And
yes, very easy to clean.
yeah.
Yeah.
They did say that, and I've been like kind of conscious of when I've been re-waxing outside of their schedule of like check the pulley wheels, and I'm like, there's no wax on them, so I'm gonna because like right now I'm not at the point where I need to re-drip it, but we're about to go on our vacation, so I'm
Right.
like, I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow night before we leave.
Just start fresh.
But I did. That's what I do. I check the pulley wheels. I'm like, there's no residue on there, so I feel like I'm safe to drip wax it. You
Yeah.
know. And again, I'm making up my own rules, but that's what I had always done with wetland. You know?
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah. Now, speaking of Brooks wearing in based on your anatomy, I need to get in for a fit. It's one of those things where, like, I was getting way too close for the ride to do anything to my bike to change it.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want it the last minute type deal. Yeah.
I didn't want the last minute deal, and I was like, I've ridden a couple of 200-mile rides. Like, I ride enough that it's not hurting me. I'm not getting weird saddle sores, but I know I'll be better off if I get the fit. But like, I don't know if it'll show on the camera, but this side of the saddle is completely dipped in, and this side is
Oh,
basically convex and concave.
Yeah. Hey,
And
can you zoom in on that a little bit?
let's see. I don't know if this will show. Maybe I can turn
Like it turn it the other direction a little bit, Micah.
it the other way.
Towards the, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this dips way in, and this is basically unshaped. So definitely have probably a shorter leg or just some imbalance in my riding style.
I will say I had my first saddle go that way, and it was so extreme that I thought it was like a defect, and Dirty River did a warranty claim on it. Brooks sent a new one. They actually never asked for the old one back, so Otis kept it. I think he's going to use it on one of his bikes. But then the exact same thing happened to my second one. It's like, okay, maybe I'm the problem. I think Micah, you said you have multiple bikes with that
I
same
do.
pattern.
It's all the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, they've all worn in like that, huh?
Pretty much. Yep.
Huh.
Back
It's
in the
funny
middle.
how,
If you-
like,
Yeah. Whatever.
it must be something that we would never notice in regular life, right?
Right.
Because like there's people with I grew up with like some kid who had like 10 levels of like padding added to his shoe, but that was like 4-inch
That's me now.
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, that's you. You're
3
close.
shims
Yeah.
in the left shoe. Yeah.
Well, Erin did stare at my butt and notice that when I told her about this, and she noticed that also on the right side of my shorts, it was worn on that side as well.
I'm not surprised she noticed that. She is the most bike fit sensitive. She changes, if she changes the shorts she's wearing, she changes her saddle height. Like she is like completely, or
That's-
it's like,
I mean, that's smart
And what-
because I
she's
don't
right.
do that, and then
Yeah.
I'll get it clipped in and be like, "Oh, this is weird."
yeah.
I run the same height whether I'm doing flats or clip-ins or
I know,
shorts
it's
or chamois or yeah.
I
yeah.
notice like saddle tilt, and with Brooks, it's very like
Yeah.
noticeable, and I'm like, no, I need to move this up a little or down a little bit. But like, she like puts like the bags on her bike, and she'll adjust saddle height, like for weight, like everything. Just
Wow.
Jay Dandy had said this once before. I don't know if he's probably asleep on the couch. Like there's not been enough naps. But yeah, I like. He's like, there's two kinds of people on bikes. Like with this topic when we were talking about, it, he's like, people are super. You're either super in tune with your bike fit, or you're just like adjust everything.
Yeah.
And I've always been adjust everything guys, and then like guy. But then everyone's like, well, you have a bad back. So maybe you're
Fair
adjusting
point,
everything.
yeah.
You
You're just in pain all the
yeah,
time.
you just don't care until you can't walk. Yeah.
Yonda said you guys suck ass at wet lube.
We really do.
I think we all do, yeah.
We really do.
I don't think anyone's good at it. Like, I just,
Yinzer asked a question earlier that I think is worth discussing because I think like if we want to talk about a 200-mile ride like this and if it's something anyone's interested in doing, maybe even this particular ride, he asked. So I had mentioned earlier 100 was the longest I'd ever done. He asked if I felt like I could have done more training to get to 200. Since I did no training, I would say the answer is yes, absolutely you should. But at the same time, I think aside from Micah, I want to say that John and Carl, and if Carl, if you're still here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they both went up to 120, and that was the farthest they took it before doing a 200. So
marathoners don't run marathons.
Right.
and
They don't run marathons before
right,
the race.
exactly, and
No marathon training plan gets you close to 26 miles.
And Yinzer specifically said he was looking to go from having done 110 miles to 150. You're fine. If you've done 110, you can do 150 easy. Like,
Yep.
especially if it's not like we're talking about like a timed event with cutoffs. If you don't have to worry about any of that kind of math and like strategy around, you know, whatever you did to ride 110 miles, just do that longer, and I think you can ride 150 miles. But
Large Marge that sounds like a B-17 problem. That sounds like my theory with going to the doctor. If I don't go, I don't know I have a
You
problem.
don't know you have a problem.
But I don't believe that's something that I would recommend for anyone else.
right.
Well, one thing I changed on my B17, because after I did my test ride up to Conneaut, I had some, I'll use Tony's term, regional numbness.
Regional. Nether region?
Regional
Nether
numbness.
regional?
for a prolonged period of time, for probably about
that's
15
right.
hours.
Yeah, that
It freaked me
I haven't
out.
heard this from you, but I've heard it from everybody else, which is fascinating. Everyone's talking about your numb weenus.
Yeah, it was.
There's a GCN video about just this topic.
watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, you trying to get any advice you could?
I was very
15 hours to
desperate.
search YouTube.
Is it okay? Will it be okay?
Will it fall off?
So I tilted the seat down a couple of degrees, and I'm happy to report that I did not have any regional numbness
Well, that was something
after
from
this ride.
from my bike fit that like so JB that I think we all use for our fits told me that like all B17 riders or just people that ride Brooks in general, they always have a pretty significant
Yeah.
nose up tilt. And he actually lowered mine like many degrees, and it still had a slight tilt up. And so yeah, if you just place that based on like kind of your own ballpark comfort before, no pun intended. Yeah, then
Especially running flats on the bike too. You're already in a more upright position, and the seat's just hammering.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely. It's interesting because I know I usually tilt the nose up, but depending on the bars I'm using is going to be how much. And now that I'm riding with like a pretty generous sweep, like setup on the gunner, like I have it much more level than I've ever have because the bars are like at saddle lever, but then my hands are back at the steering axis. So when I was riding the gravel bikes, I needed it up more, which almost sounds counterintuitive, but that's just the way Brooks are because you ride them at the back of the
it creates a
saddle when you
hammock.
come- Yeah.
Yeah. There was one video. I don't know if I'm sure we went through it, but the audio was none. But I ran into Large Marge on the ride.
The other Large Marge.
Maggie.
Oh yeah.
And
Which we should shout out Maggie.
we should
for-
shout out Maggie. She rolled up on me and she, it was in the pit of despair. And she's like, "Are you from Cleveland?" From behind me. I'm like,
Kind of.
Akron? She's like, "I've been asking every person with purple rims if they're from Cleveland." I finally found you. So she
And
rolled
you were like,
up,
yeah, just like you guys think LeBron is from Cleveland. Backward, bitch.
blew her off.
I only saw one other person.
And then
with
you're
purple
just
rims.
like, I'm just outta gave you the here. motivation to like hammer home
Right.
at
Well,
13.5.
actually, quite the opposite. There she is. She rolls up on me. She's on a single-speed Otso Finier, like the Salsa or the Fargo geometry, stainless steel Otso. Single speed, just smiling, having a blast, rocking it out. So we rode together for quite a while. She shouted out Ben, Large Marge, their
Together.
friends, and yep. And so on the video, you'll see, or you'll hear that I say, "Oh, okay, you're friends with Ben. Do you know Tim Fitzwater?" She's like, "No." I was like, awesome. So I made sure I kept that on there.
Now,
for you.
Also my insult right there doesn't matter because she's not watching this.
no, she's not watching us. No, we should say that I heard about multiple people that had run-ins with fans of your stream or fans of your channel on the ride. John ran into a couple people, I think.
It should be called No Tim. Oh, I don't have it on here.
Oh no, that's a bummer.
12,
Did
13,
I down- did it all go
19,
over?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6, 7, 8.
They're all in order. 15, 16, 17.
That's a bummer.
Weird.
You'll have to post that in the Discord or something later.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have it on your phone or anything?
Probably do. That's weird. I wonder what the number would be because it's all numerically lined up, right?
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
So Maggie
numbers do
finished.
not lie.
Maggie finished first in the women's single speed category out of one. She was the only women's single speed entrant in
That's crazy.
the race. Yeah, and
She
she
had
finished
done it
before
last year,
sunset.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 5 minutes
Yeah.
after I did. Not long.
We should talk about, actually, while we're on that topic and you're looking for this video, a couple people we know that were not in our group. So
Yes.
Aaron Novak
Oh, Aaron Novak, our buddy. he's been
entered
on
last
the video.
minute, right? Just like heard about the race, I think, like a week or two before
He was
from
talking about it on the Rats ride on the Wednesday before, and he's like, "Oh, I got my wife. She's gonna come do support."
signed up, finished the race. What was his finish time? Do you remember?
He was pretty quick too, wasn't
15?
before-
I
yeah.
don't even know.
Before
what it was.
before sunset as well, right?
I'm
or
not
short-
sure,
or maybe
but
shortly
yeah,
after?
Right around.
And
Right
on a
around-
bent-
right
and
around
on a
then,
bent
yeah.
frame.
On a bent frame.
On a bent crust frame. One of the only other, not a lot of steel bikes out there on this race.
And press button. No, but we'll get
Oh no. So
Okay,
we'll
go
do
for
that
it,
next.
go for
Okay,
it.
so here's who I really want to shout out. Biggest shout out that I'm going to give personally on this recap. Our friend Jonah. We should say that when Carl threw this idea out, like he talked to a few of us, I think, about it privately, but he did post in the Yeti Squad Facebook group, which has a couple hundred people in it. If anyone wants to come do this ride, like, you're welcome to join us. Our friend Jonah did not ever contact us or join our group or anything. Just signed up to do the race on his
I
own.
didn't know this. Yeah, because I know. Yeah. I know
Yeah.
Jonah, too.
Lied and said he would have a support crew. Again, you have to have support for this ride. You either bring your own support crew or you pay them to provide one. Jonah did not do either of those things. He just showed up. Here's you're gonna show a
It's
picture
not
of.
big, you're good.
Okay, so Jonah just shows up, drives his car to the finish line, takes a shuttle 200 miles across the state to the start line, pays $5 to sleep on the floor of a church the night before they have like a church you could stay at if you wanted to before, like if you didn't want to get a hotel or whatever. Pays $5 to sleep on the floor of a church the night before the race. Gets up, does the race at the 6 a.m. rollout. Him and I leapfrogged early on in the race. We rode it together for a little bit. He was in John and I's pace line for a while. Again, had almost no bike bags. I think he had 2 water bottles. I know at one point I saw him with a bag of like gummy worms. He stopped and got at a gas station. Do not know how he fueled himself. He finished about maybe 7 or 8 minutes before Carl did, like a little after like 1:45 in the morning. We were like, "Hey man, great job. We've got an Airbnb about 25 minutes from here. Like, we think we have some extra room. You're welcome to come crash." He's like, "No, I'm just gonna nap in my car." sleeps in his car for a little bit, drives 6 or 7 hours back to Akron, and then goes to Yeti Squad at 10 a.m. on Sunday and rides like 20 some miles. So
I had no idea.
yeah, major props to Jonah there for just the
Unbelievable.
one of the most heroic, totally unsupported rides.
Because him and Summit Perry hang out around.
Yes, yeah, they do. And actually, it's funny because I obviously was feeling quite bitter at the time about my headlight failure. He rolls in with this girl who also had a headlight die, and I told him immediately what happened to me when he asked how it went, and he just points down at his wheel and goes, "Dynamo hub."
Dynamo.
So he like escorted
rubs
someone
it
in who had a headlight failure. He was like, "Damn it, Jonah, where were you when I needed you?"
Aaron and I rode the first segment together. We were in that same.
Here's Aaron's bike while we're talking.
Yeah,
That same
yeah.
Peloton group.
Awesome build.
And then I had to pee so badly, and I was having some digestive issues, and was a little afraid to like stop and pee because I was afraid more needed to happen. So, but it finally got to a point at like mile 40 where I'm like, I gotta stop. So I lost the group, took care of business, and got back in. So he arrived at checkpoint 1 before me. I get in, set up. Maybe 5 or 6 miles into checkpoint 2, I come up on Aaron, and he was flagging. He was starting to feel it. It was hot out. It was getting rough, and he looked at me. He's like, "Man, that's some rough terrain," because we were starting to get into like the sandy gravel stuff, and I was worried about him. Brattle like this. I was worried about him. I continued on. Passed by, but I didn't know, like, is Aaron gonna finish? Is he gonna be able to regain himself? Oh, and on that first leg, I had asked him, like, what are you running? Do you have electrolytes? You running snacks? Would you set up? He's like, I'm just doing water, and I don't really have any snacks with me. Figure pick something up at the next rest stop. It was just like, oh my god, okay, because we had all obsessively like overplanned this thing. We had like a grocery store in the van. Yeah. So, dude figured it out. I don't know if he had stuff in the car or if his wife ran out and got stuff for him in between stops, but he pulled it together. I mean, major kudos. I talked to him today, and he said his knee was giving him trouble still, and he was foggy head, same thing that everybody's dealing with.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'll probably be out there again next year.
Yeah, you've got John pulled up. So John is the one that finished just before midnight. He did not ride this bike though. He rode his.
He didn't ride the Gunner.
He rode his Gorilla Monsoon. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think this bike would have done great.
I think this bike would have done great, but
Not those
he's
tires.
he's also got slicks on there, and his Gorilla Monsoon is he had the Schwalbe. I forget which ones now. You've got them pulled up.
Micro-dots,
The ones with the real knobby ones. Yeah.
The ones we were looking at earlier.
Yeah, and again, I rode with him in a 20-mile-an-hour pace line for the first 55-ish miles. He did not have any trouble going that fast on the pavement with those knobs, so I think he made the right tire choice. But yeah,
I think that was a great bike for it too.
Yeah.
The Gorilla Monsoon's made for everything. It's a great bike.
That was a cool thing about this ride was like, again, it was so many. Like, I mean, you close your eyes and like throw a rock and you're gonna hit a carbon bike with 38s or 42s on it, and yet occasionally you'd roll up on somebody, and a couple other all cities out there. This one guy had a single speed Super Pro that was awesome. Rolled up on me. We talked about all city bikes for a while. Came across this guy with the most beautiful color matched titanium Niner I've ever seen. Blue accents, blue anodized wheels. There were like, these were few and far between. So John's Gunner certainly would have stuck out there, but even the Gorilla Monsoon got a lot of comments from people passing by because it was just like this was a race bike event for sure.
So now I'm kind of curious because I'm looking at the tire choice and stuff like this, and I've got major FOMO when you guys were doing this. So I'm like trying to think of like I would do it next year, and you said you
should do
back.
it. I'm going back. I gotta get my
And like I said,
revenge.
I like to go out and have a good time. We were camping that weekend, just having fun, stopping, doing the opposite of you guys, like eating pancakes, stopping at Taco Tano's.
The
going
FOMO goes both ways.
Yeah, going into like Garrettsville to watch like the locals, like the mix of people in Garrettsville. Amazing at their Summerfest. Then I was riding the Gunner as a shakedown ride. So 55 mil tires, sweet bars, when I'm about to take up to Michigan. But now that you guys are talking about the sand, I'd originally been thinking like I would ride my Raleigh because this is a race with a cutoff and the drops and any kind of wind. I think that's what I'd want. I'd want 42s. Like, so now I'm.
I think
Now
I
I'm
would
thinking,
go gunner, man.
now
I'd
I'm
go with
thinking-
your gunner if I were
I
you.
took the gunner to Black Fork.
I'd
Yeah.
go
I was
gunner every
happier
time.
at Black Fork.
Because again, you have a lot of time. If you can hammer that first section out really fast and just like pace yourself into the third section especially, like you are going to have, the terrain is going to be your biggest challenge. You will not have an issue with elevation. Once you get to checkpoint 2, you never really go that fast again until the very end,
And also, if
probably.
you're saying if I hang with people, so when I am on the sweep bar
Yeah.
bike, if I hang with a draft,
You just tuck down in.
yeah.
Either bike would be fine. I think if you had the right tires on the Rally, if you had like these tires, these Schwalbes on the Rally, which would fit
Yeah.
because they're not super wide,
Well, you said you're at 48 on here.
45.
I could probably fit 45. At least
And they're
definitely in
not.
the front.
They're
yeah.
not. They're really nice soft rubber, but they're not super supple, where they like mushroom out. So I bet you could wedge them in there.
What I'd say is like your setup on the Raleigh would be the most similar to the bike that John rode with the Gorilla Monsoon, but
It's
you would have
closer to your all. It's close to the
well,
Space Horse.
well, but you would have so
geometry-wise.
you say you'd have a more aggressive geometry than the Gorilla Monsoon, and you'd have a lighter bike
Yes.
overall, which Carl really said was important to him. He had a
was.
super light bike, rode a carbon Lauf. I would say like the Raleigh would be totally capable of finishing this. Like you could
And you
easily
have a
finish
carbon
this on.
fork on that
Yeah.
Rally.
I do
And
have a
that's
carbon.
something where I would say for John's gunner, the carbon fork, the beauty of that in the sand is you're not getting that front end bog.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would try to keep as much weight off the front end as possible, whether it's a bag, a basket, fork, all that
That's
stuff, so
interesting
you
'cause
can keep that thing lofted and maneuverable.
The Raleigh handles really well when I load it down for touring with the front
Yeah.
heavy weight on it. But that would be a straight against. Well, I don't know because I guess with the gunner with upright bars, you're sitting more
You're still
back,
back,
on the.
yeah.
It's
so you're putting less-
it's wild how much like you think like that it's got to be similar to gliding through mud or something. That little like that
Yeah.
that drift you get in the mud, that like fishtail thing that is always controllable if you know what you're doing. It's a totally different thing in the sand, and yeah, I think like I mean you can see how well distributed the weight is on Micah's bike right here, and if you look at mine, it's set up the way I would tour. All the weights on the front. I do think that was a
I think
that was
it's
a liability.
Bit of
Yeah.
an anchor.
Oh, that's interesting. So
That was
I
not
think-
conscious on my part, by
So
the
maybe
way.
that
but,
leans towards
yeah.
the gunner because I do have
Yeah,
pressure on my
true.
hands on the Raleigh, even though it's fairly
Yeah.
slack. So, but getting your hands back to the steering axis, like you rode flat bars and rode it all,
Yeah.
maybe that would actually favor the wider tires and the setback.
I
position.
do like flat bars. That's a personal preference. I just I don't find myself in the drops on drop bars very often. So I just like flats. I like the control. I feel like I can get plenty of speed on that. But yeah, the sand. The best way I could describe the sand was a little bit like skiing, where you're. Especially in like, I don't have a lot of skiing experience, so forgive me anybody that does. But if you're skiing in really deep, soft snow, and you just kind of like, you have to follow the grain of the snow and just let it control you while kind of being loose in the bike for the sand, being loose in the bars, loose in the seat, but knowing when to like apply power to like kick yourself out of that. And yeah, I don't know. It was a learning experience the whole time. But that's, as much as I would love to do this again, like especially if you two guys sign up for this, I'm gonna be like, oh God, I don't want to miss this.
You already beat
I
sunset.
have to say,
already cheated
it would
though.
take a
Move on to the
whole
next
lot.
thing. Move
Yeah,
on to the next thing,
It
man.
would take a lot to do it again because that pit of despair area was soul sucking.
And just to change the tone here for a second, we've been talking this whole time really positively about our experience and
Yeah.
what we learned about ourselves and our bikes and about this passion we have and what we do different. I'll just be negative and nasty
Yeah.
and bitter for a minute. Like, I don't know. Like, people in this chat are going to disagree with me on this. Like, the spirit of gravel, whatever. Like, if you've got an all-road bike, you should be riding it on all types of terrain, on all roads, whatever that means. But like, I don't know if bikes and sand really belong together. Like, I don't. You would not drive your car like through the ocean. You would not hike through an active volcano. I don't really want to ride my bike through the sand.
Yeah.
You're gonna pull this up again.
Yeah.
Tried, right?
You failed.
Yeah, it's not the chosen preferred.
I want to hear the audio now.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's the
It's-
worst movie.
poor
ever
guy.
Made.
Yeah.
It's like the
But yeah,
Yeah, I agree
Carl
with you.
Carl was with me in the darkest of the dark times for my sand struggles and can testify to my
It was really fun on Sunday morning to we were all debriefing each other on
Yeah.
our experiences, and so I'm reading Carl's comment here. He was talking about Carl's a big guy, so his light bike and wide tires were really important. And so he was talking about his approach. He would get his butt way back, lock his hands in the drops, and basically use his shoulders to kind of push the bike through. And it worked really well for him. But
It's interesting because when it comes to I've really liked riding the gunner on rough terrain, or places that need wider tires, and I've liked the drops for the leverage. But when we do rats exploring, and I'm gonna mix it up, and I want to go
Yeah.
fast, and I want to go slow, I can ride drops. It's part of how I ride my bike, and it's when I look at this route, I still in my mind would favor I want to go out on my baby.
I think you would go on the rally. You would go on the.
if I were you,
You're
I
gonna be
would,
in
because
that
again,
bike 15 hours, right?
this is mine.
You want to be on a bike that you like, even
Yeah.
if there are some spots where it's a compromise. And that's my Fargo would have handled this whole route beautifully, but it would have compromised on the faster sections and been a lot to push on that. So, but it would have handled the sand like a dream. That said, this bike handled the sand, but it handled the faster sections and the gravel sections really well. So you're going to have to compromise somewhere.
Yeah.
And obviously
That's
there
always
were
a thing in life too, and someone was giving a shit about nerding out about tires, but these are all the things that matter when you're doing something that you're pushing yourself.
Yeah.
They do become things that make a difference.
It's margins.
Yeah, and obviously, we're going real deep on the tires and the sand and all that, but there were obviously people there who their strategy was to not deal with the sand and just make sure that they could go as fast as they possibly could when there wasn't sand, and that's a legitimate strategy. I mean, that was essentially, that's what I did, and it just once you know about the sand and you know how much of it there's going to be and what your approach has to, if you just hopped off the bike at every sign of sand and just walked through it all, you could have probably finished that ride. I mean, you might be cutting it close, but if you can hammer otherwise, it's not a hilly ride. It's not a.
Yonda's in here giving a shit about everything, but specifically my rally. So, for the record, I have a.
It's going to die soon, Tim.
It's
That's
got
what
an
it says.
It's got an integrated hanger that is getting weaker, and now that we've especially modified the bike to do shit it shouldn't do.
Oh, Yonda, sounds like you better be brushing up on your welding skills then, bud.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I was telling Large, Ben, the same thing. I'm it's sentimental to me enough that I've met some frame builders. I will have them
Fix this.
irreplaceable drop out on that bike.
Yeah.
So, again, I know Yonda just is Yonda.
He's Yonda.
But
Well, I would say that, so Carl had said something, his demons were winning, talking to Tony. I tried to pump him up. That is something that's so important to me, is to ride with people that you trust. And this was an experience I had on the Fool's Loop. Riding with Albert, I found my limit and needed someone to deliver me, from a very dangerous situation. And I felt that on this whole ride, is that everybody at our aid station, the people that we were riding with, I trusted all those people that if they came upon me, that they would take care of me. But at the aid stations, but at the aid stations, those people knew, it's not playtime. It was funny too. Josh, who is at the support truck, said that he was watching some of the married couples that
Oh God.
a spouse was taking care of a spouse that was riding it, and he's like, man, there was some really rough dynamics there. And I mean, it is a different scenario where you roll into that situation and you are raw. And there's no capacity for empathy, to hear the annoyance of other people in the pit, any of those things. You're just computer needs charged. I need water. I gotta have food. Like, I mean, it's very selfish.
Yeah.
At that point, and so it was really special to have people there that were just like, yeah, you need all this. To the point that like Albert woke up on Sunday and made us all breakfast.
He did great breakfast. Yeah,
Nicole and
We-
Josh went out and got us all these pastries.
we drank a lot of Albert's
We
tequila.
did drink a lot of. Yeah, there was a special tequila stop multiple times on the way to Algray, so we were supplied. But to have people that are looking out for you is really important.
And you know, like it's funny, like we've all talked about how like the emotional range you experience during this is something that's like kind of hard to grapple with. Like I can't believe, like when I think about the times where I was just like in pure grit mode, just like pushing ahead at all costs, thinking like I will finish this race if I die. And then like, you know, that's like mile like 135, 140, and then at mile 171 to drop out, I was just like completely like whatever. All right. There were two volunteers there that we started talking about bikes, and she's like, I'm just chatting with, and that's like completely like removed from you experienced the full range of emotions at this thing. And like at checkpoint 2, I know I rolled in and they were like concerned about me because I was just like completely out of it, like just unresponsive almost. And then at checkpoint 3, I was like so amped because I was counting down. Like I knew exactly how fast I had to roll to make the cutoff. I'm coming in averaging over 20 miles an hour. I roll by the van and they're yelling, Tony, Tony, Tony. And I'm like, I like yelled at them. I snapped. I'm like, I got to go roll through the sensor before I come to the van. Because at all the other checkpoints, that's how it works. You roll over the sensor. You go to your support van. You take your time. But at the final one,
Go support van.
you go to support van first, and then you roll over the sensor, and that's your cue to leave, and that's when they clock you. And so I get to the thing, and they're like, "Oh, you got to go to your vehicle first." And I'm like, "Oh shit, now I feel bad." I kind of snapped at those guys, and I
That
was
was my
like, "Sorry,
exact
guys."
experience there. I misunderstood their instructions. I
Yeah,
thought I
yeah.
had to go through the
Yep,
checkpoint
exactly.
again. So I passed the van. They're flagging me down. I'm like, I gotta go. So I get to the checkpoint, and I was like, well, can I come back through here to get to my van?
They DQ you if you do
They're
that. Yeah.
like, no, you can't. And I was just like, what? And I was the only time I like was really rude to
Yeah,
a volunteer. I'm
yeah.
like, what are you talking about? You made me ride an extra 100 yards.
Well, and
I gotta go back. Yeah. I only have so much, man.
the guys that I snapped at down there too about the same thing.
Yeah.
They were the guys that ended up meeting me when I had to drop out, and we had a half hour to hang out and talk about bikes
That's
and stuff,
great.
and they were cool. But yeah, but I'm like so can I just roll through this thing and just like. Because
Just
of the
leave
3
your
minutes,
bike.
I didn't have a chance to rest. So I'm like, once I roll through this, can I just sit here and chill? And they're like, no, you got to leave. And I was like,
come on,
I was like, leave to where? I was like, kind of mean to them, and they
Yeah.
were like, you just got to go in the forest and be out of our sight. I don't like. And the one guy was like, and he even added, he paused and he was like, I mean that with love.
That's what he
So you could. So this, it's like he knew this is a person on the verge of this is a person who's about to be like talking to a coyote in 20 minutes, like while his phone and light are dying, and he's like contemplating that he may never leave this forest.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
coolest thing about having a ride organizer that's like a deeply devoted rider.
Yes.
Is that guy, Matt Aker, big red bearded guy. He tore all the ligaments in an ankle on the Lumberjack 100. So he was in a boot for the whole thing. But early in the ride, we came upon a highway crossing that they had warned us about. And I took a chance. There was a car moving fast, but I had enough
boy.
time, and so I just blasted across.
Is that the one where somebody got hit?
Maybe. Yeah.
I think they warned us about somebody actually dying on that at that intersection. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dying is short term, glorious forever. Right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait, no, wait, that's not how they say it.
I don't think that's how it goes. So I get across. Maybe 15 minutes later, I start feeling a vehicle coming up behind me, and I get over far to the right, and I look over, and it's Matt. It's Matt in his like sag van.
Lars said he was at Black Fork.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice,
Okay.
yeah.
I know I've seen him before.
He was
Okay.
injured at this.
He was, yeah.
So he was not riding.
So he rolls up. He's like, "How you doing, dude?" I'm like, "I'm good. I'm good." He's like, "Hey, that was a close call. I saw you at that crossing. You made it. It was good, but that car was moving at like 70 plus. I just want to remind you, take your time, be careful, have a good ride." And they just went on. It wasn't pejorative. It wasn't like scolding.
Just
They were
he
all
knew-
super cool,
He
yeah.
understood
He
the
understood.
rider's mentality is, and it's like,
He knew I wanted to keep my momentum.
yeah.
Wanted to keep moving, but remind this dude, chill, okay? Chill, stay alive. And I really respected that because it came from a fellow rider, and it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Our buddy Ryan McCluskey was out at the beach during this weekend and saw my posts
I
and
saw this, yeah.
and posted tagged me in a picture of him or a video of him riding through some light beach sand, not some Michigan forest sand, but
Not Michigan Forest. Hashtag Morgan.
right. Tim, so you know that thing where you at some point you thank the members for and we all pee while that happens?
Yeah.
Can that happen soon? Maybe
You can just do it.
I can do it myself.
No,
No, you mean I can just go pee?
Yeah. You don't have to. This
Yeah,
is
just a Tony Piddle
not high
break.
school.
All right, whatever. I guess Tim doesn't care about thanking the members in this
Yes,
on this
Tony, you may use the
particular
bathroom.
live stream. Oh no, I want to do like what Brad did, where he kept his mic on while he went and peed, and we all heard the.
Oh, it was.
Did you hear
Who
that?
was that? Was it?
It was Brad. It was Brad.
But somebody.
It was a couple weeks ago.
No, Brad remembered to take it off. Then whoever.
Oh,
else-
someone put it in his hoodie or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So Brad was like, "I have to go to the bathroom," and then like,
So
was it Ben? And someone like just like dropped it in his hoodie. And everyone's like, "Oh no, we can hear you!" Like all the chat like blew up. Like, "No, stop!" And Who did
speaking
that? Was
of,
it Hugh? It was someone.
yeah, it sounds like a Ben move.
Yeah,
He would have been kissing his neck.
yeah, yeah. It was very homoerotic. Yeah.
Speaking of Brad, Ames
In
and
a
I,
good way.
yeah.
You know, Duarte's here now too.
Oh yeah, he said he was eating his Nutter Butters. Speaking of Brad, Ames and I are riding the Reign of Pain on Saturday.
Yeah, I've heard about this. We're gonna be in Michigan.
Yeah, I know, having fun.
You made the wrong choice again.
I did. Dang it. Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about the Michigan route. So it starts like just below the bridge to the UP.
No, we decided we're going to Traverse City instead.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we're gonna get down to where you guys were, kind
Cool.
of the Manistee? Is that it? Manistee Forest, yeah. Then go back up the coast.
Cool.
Keep it in vague before we do it because, you know,
You gotta keep it chill.
these weardos from the internet like
They're gonna
John
search you out.
Duarte. Like, I don't, yeah. Carl Von Brand. I have,
Yeah. That'll be fun. I do think like.
Oh, it was Yonda who put the mic in the hoodie. That's right.
Oh, nice,
It was when
Yonda.
and Brad were on,
Nice.
Anybody need a beer?
Yeah, why not? I'm not driving.
I'm good. Thank you.
Kim,
Sure.
Oh boy.
a Bodie, or do you want to? Okay,
Friday.
Dave.
Kim's gonna start swearing.
Okay.
Pretty soon she's gonna be like, I don't want to be on
Not
camera. Then she's gonna be like, let me
Not
tell you tell you about toe cages and when Otis tried to make me take them off my bike.
I'm really quiet voice tonight.
I think that whole Manistee Forest area would be so fun to tour through and camp in because we pass by all kinds of campsites on the single track and on the double track, and it would be a beautiful area to ride, especially if you had a wide tire bike, plus bike, or fat bike, just to go play in, and you're not in the midst of a endurance ride.
I was saying this too though, like as we were joking about like what we were doing last weekend where you guys were doing a challenge. I love a good challenge, and it's actually been a little while since I've done one because of my back situation, and so I'm like, I don't want to like promise myself something that I like have no chance of. But like, I make one for myself almost every summer, and then don't tell anyone else about it,
Yeah.
and then I just go and do it quietly,
Yep.
and then after it's like, oh yeah, I did this.
Then you
today.
can live in the glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a champion and a hero.
I'm a fellow like non-competitive, like non-challenger type. Like I just like to go do this stuff for fun and finish it. Like I mean, how long had you guys been hanging out drinking beers when I finished at Black Fork? You know, like.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you're that type of person, like this ride in particular, if you just want to go have fun with some
Yep.
friends for a weekend, with like a really supportive environment, like of
Don't do it.
like
yeah. Go find something else.
go
to do.
camping. Yeah, go
it's a
camping.
fucking
Yeah,
nightmare.
yeah. Go to Dave and Buster's. Do something else. No. This is. Go to the art museum. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a red, white, and blue fest out
There are a lot
Watch
of
the
easier
fireworks.
ways to
Yeah.
fill that void.
Yeah, have you seen Succession? Watch Succession. Great show.
It's
Yeah,
a great
binge
four
watch that.
seasons.
Yeah. But no, this event is like whatever you can do, do it. And there's probably not an easier 200 miles out there, like with this kind of,
Sand.
like variety. Well, I'm trying to be, but it's kind of sad.
You could ride to Geneva on the lake and back and have 4,000 feet of climbing and smooth roads the whole way. There's a much easier way to do it.
Oh, John's here. I didn't see John show
How
up.
were other riders' attitudes when you were riding?
So
Kim asked-
oh, go for it. Kim asked how were other riders' attitudes out there.
I didn't encounter one negative person.
Same.
Everybody was
Because Tony
super
was
cool.
so far behind you.
I texted some negative. Yeah. I sent texts to some negative riders to try to encourage. No,
Like
like
you didn't encounter them.
I stand in front of them.
I ignored a phone call from you at one point.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I didn't. I mean, nobody would like. If anybody was in a dark place, that was understandable. But nobody was like elbowing you out or like.
Yeah, and there were no, and again, like, I mean, for me, the biggest group I was ever going to be in was going to be the first 55 miles in that like 25-ish person pack, and everybody there was super cool. We were all talking and joking. It was a really, really good group. I encountered a lot of people who were suffering deeply. There was a guy at one point just pulled over to the side. I asked him if he needed help, and he was like, "I just really need some clean water, man." And he was contemplating dumping his electrolyte mix onto his head because he was so hot, and he knew he'd get all sticky and gross. And I had a clean water bottle, and I was like, "Here," and we rode together for a few hundred feet until he was just there's people like that. There was this guy I encountered who had done the ride twice before successfully, much older guy, and this was just not his year, and he was feeling it hard and. I thought he might need to go to the hospital at some point, and I rode with him until we got to like one of those houses where someone was just offering water bottles and a chair. Got him in the chair, got him a water bottle. Like there were just you encounter so many like different people on these things, and I never encountered someone who was just like like you do at shorter races where someone's being a dick and they're like, "Hey, get out of the way," and they're like,
there's a lot of bad etiquette at some of the rides we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Like Black Fork is the one
Black
that
Fork's the
I've
one that
experienced the
stands out.
most. Like
I got really upset
dickishness.
because like after I posted that video, a couple people were like, "You're not being very nice to noobs," and I'm like, I wasn't complaining about the noobs.
No,
I was
no.
complaining about the experienced riders.
Exactly.
"Oh, the people
like,
just walking up the
I
only
actually recorded
usable
a whole
line and
video
all that." Yeah.
addressing that never posted it because I just didn't feel like it was relevant to answer a couple comments. But like I'm like, no, answer these individually. But like it was not about the noob. Like everybody,
no.
everyone understands like somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yep.
And they're usually not the person in your way. They're usually the person getting out of the way. It's the experienced riders who are like being pieces of shit.
Yep.
If I'm walking as fast as you're riding, why you
Exactly.
don't walk the good line.
Don't walk the good line.
Don't walk the good line.
I encountered one person walking the good line through the sand, but I just said, "Hey, coming up on your left, I'm trying to ride this."
Yeah.
And the guy shifted over. It wasn't a conversation, wasn't an issue. Got out of the way.
And
I was
again, this could
annoyed
be
that he
someone
was
like-
walking the good line, but at the same time, it sucked to walk that stuff.
But also, 200-mile ride, you're way more spread out than on a 60-mile ride. That's
Yeah.
a 56-mile ride.
Yep.
That's where my issue was. It's like,
Everyone's
these are people who
cramped
should
in
know
that.
better.
Yeah, exactly.
You've decided no, they didn't decide. These are just these alpha males who are always those people, and nobody else matters. They're the only person in the world who matters, and that's a totally different thing. Because I've been running like a half marathon where I like had zoned out, and I remember like just started. My sciatica kicked up. I should not have even entered this race. I had already paid for it though 6 months before, and there was like a guy coming up like pushing the guy who's been in the Beacon Journal in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I was just drifting, and they're like, "Hey, bud, we're over here," and it was like a zone out.
Yep.
moment, just
That's
a,
totally
That always
different.
that's going to happen. Yeah.
that 200 miles in the sand.
You're gonna have some moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
56 miles on gravel at the pace
Those
we're
people are
moving.
locked in.
I will say there was one guy that he wasn't being a jerk. He didn't have a bad attitude, but I found him to be kind of annoying. He was
Sure.
and he was in our little like Peloton for a while, and we eventually dropped him, and I was glad to have dropped him. And he caught up at the first checkpoint, and there was a big long line for the bathroom, and he walks into the bathroom, and he's got a bright yellow jersey on, and both of his nipples are just bleeding profusely down. And he hadn't noticed this, and he looks down and he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna feel that in the shower later." I was just like, it's like,
That,
you know
my
what, man?
friends, is why you pack 2 sets of nipple protectors.
Oh yeah, Mike is a nipple protection, nipple condom guy.
Yeah.
Called nips in the biz.
Nippies. Yep, nippies.
But I want to, before we lose it, John said, he said, one thing I didn't hear anyone talk about was the flowy double track right before you strolled into the water checkpoint at mile 143. Probably solid 5 to 10 miles of solid forest riding. That is like one of the things that kept me going was like, there's a lot of pavement early on, and late in the ride, it's like any little bit of pavement, even if it's just a paved bridge between 2 sections of gravel, you're just like, thank God. Like, but that section of double track in particular, it's just like it was the exact type of like underbiking I think we all like to do around here on like our, and that I just remember feeling so in the zone there. That's like around when I was getting like, well he said mile 143. That was a little after my second wind kicked in, but it's like that was the section where I was just like, oh yeah, I remember that I actually like riding my bike. It's like I'm not just pushing it up a bunch of sandy hills. That's like this part rocks. That the fast gravel that would occasionally pop up, it was just like there were moments of like, oh yeah, this is why I like doing this.
It was like 0.5% downhill, so it just took you, and it was smooth enough to just ride. It did feel good.
And like whatever roots and rocks were there were like no big deal at all, like compared to the rest of it. Yeah.
Well, I think Tony though that is an interesting. So, Micah, you're notoriously like to punish yourself. So this is not this is well within your
And others that will join
and
me.
others,
Yeah.
yeah. Brad was in here. He's like Caveat 2.0.
Let's do this.
Yeah, a double century or century one day, century the next day. We just really break Brad over the coals on that ride. But
He can relate
I've heard about it. I've heard about it.
He
Yeah.
can relate to headlights dying.
so, like, what was your motivation?
Tony,
I
why
mean-
did you do this?
I have an evangelical background for self-punishment.
Yeah.
What's your
I mean-
reason?
Yeah.
I mean,
Micah
so
believes he's becoming closer to God. It's totally irrational. What is your justification? No.
I don't know. I just know that like again, like I think I was probably drunk at the Cave for some techno show or something, and Carl was so excited about this ride that he convinced me I should be excited about this ride. And I was
Then once
just
you
like,
spent
fuck
the
yeah.
money, you went back.
And then, and yeah, once you pay like what is it, like 180 bucks to
$200,
register,
yeah.
yeah. This is not a cheap ride, by the way.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, oh yeah, I'll have the time to prepare. But once I didn't, and I'd made peace with the idea that like this may be like more than I may have bitten off more than I can chew. Once you're out there doing this, and it's like, once you've ridden like 100 miles, you're kind of like in it at that point. It's only 2 p.m. I've ridden 100 miles. I'm hot. I'm tired. I'm dehydrated. I'm hungry. I'm dirty. Everything sucks. Like I want this to be worth it. Like I want to see that lake at the end of this. Like that was like I just like I don't know. I wanted it bad, and
It takes a special mindset. I mean,
yeah,
don't
you-
discount that because there are plenty of people that'd be like, I've ridden 100 miles and it's only 2 p.m.
century.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that car to the beach.
I'll
Yeah.
see Lake Michigan in the car.
But I will say, and like, there are probably people like in the chat that can like relate to this, even if they haven't ridden anywhere near this distance. It's like, I know, like, granted, I didn't put in the level of work that John or Carl did. Like, they really deserve kudos for like the amount of like the foresight they had to like the months and months of training they did, and like I know like John for a while was saying like he was training so hard that like on days he wasn't working, he just like didn't even know what else to do but like get on his bike and like that takes like a special kind of commitment, and like they earned every one of those 204 miles. But like if you when you do this stuff and you spend this much time riding like we all do, it's just like I don't know, like at the end of it, like I had to quit, but it's like I don't know, my body never failed me, my bike never failed me. I don't think any of us had bike issues,
That's
right? Like
really frustrating.
like
Yeah.
and so it is what it is, and it's like it's a result of like there are decisions I could have made where it could have gone the other way, but I'm not. I mean, it'll take me a little while to get over it like fully, but it's like I don't know. I rode 171 fucking miles. That's pretty far. Like I'm
Yeah,
happy,
it's really
and
cool.
like, and I've never encountered train like that. Like I'm happy with it. Like it's I don't know. It's like
Because
I never.
I feel like I would never be Carl's level of training, and I'd be like, I'm gonna mentally make this happen.
Yeah.
And I think I might end up like Tony. And
But
I
like,
don't mean that in a bad
if
way.
you like being on your bike enough, like even
do it.
like I said this. So I had a ride I did that was like not even very long, like 30, 40 miles a few weeks ago. It was like that hottest day we've had all year. I don't know why I chose that day to do a bunch of like valley like hills, but like I was just feeling really sluggish. I was having mechanical issues. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And I just like I remember like posting that ride on Strava and being like, well, you know, even like a bad day on the bike is still like a pretty good day. And it's like at the end of it, like I was riding my bike, was hanging out with my friends, like it was,
Yeah.
you know.
Racer, I get what you're saying. Other people say this about like spending money on rides. One thing, like we do Road Apple every year. It's actually fairly cheap for the beer and the meal
So
and a
30,
shirt
30
and
40
that.
bucks, yeah.
So like one of the cheapest events we do. But a lot of people say this like I could ride my bike for free every day. There's an event atmosphere that is different than anything else. And
You
like,
can't really capture that.
and also for doing like something this extreme, yes, you can go. This route is posted. You could go just ride it. Go just ride it.
Yep.
Strapping a number on is different for some of us, and maybe it's not for other people, and it has nothing. I spend $180 on stupid shit
Yep.
once in a while. I'm not like a frivolous person,
Right.
but like,
Hey, here's my $180 T-shirt, by the way.
yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So I also I do like push back a little bit against that, like of that idea of like these rides cost money. Like someone planned this. This
Yep.
route exists for a reason. Yes, you could go ride it now because someone put the time and effort into planning. And the Racer, this is not an attack on you. I totally understand the attitude. I think I started with this attitude. Why would I ride my bike down railroad tracks? I do
Yeah.
exciting things all the time. There is something about event day that is different. And like I don't think I would go and ride 200. I wouldn't go ride 204 miles
This
on
is
my
the
own at
thing.
this pace.
Yep.
It would be this like experience that would make it like events do something. Like I would never run a half marathon in my life. Like
Yep.
I did it because an ex-girlfriend signed me up, and then once I was signed up, that just hits my
It
mentality,
locks
and I
you
want to
in.
finish and I want to complete it, and I don't want to stop running. Like
Yep.
so.
I mean, to your point, like I did do a pre-ride against the marathon training. Did do a pre-ride up to Conneaut and back that was over 200 miles, and it was an experience. But I soloed it. It wasn't with people. It wasn't like a life event, and I don't know. I'm not saying that all like constitutes $180. Like you can't monetarily define what that needs to be. But the other side of it is, I'll say, as a person that does work freelance and that does work for people to pay for the things I create, I do have a respect for the work, the intangible work that goes into organizing something like this. And you know, if that's $180, if it's $45, if it's $65. $180 is less than the cassette on my bike.
Yeah.
And I would replace that in a heartbeat if my bike needed it. So if this is something where these guys have worked their butts off to lay out a trail for us and have a little something at the end for us and
Put their time and their sweat
put their
and
time
planning.
and their heart into it to say, like, this is going to be a challenging, thoughtful route. I can't say that that's, like, I'm not going to dismiss anybody's financial concerns or needs, but
It's
there's a
not
time that I
overpriced.
could do it. You
It's
know,
not overpriced.
it's not
If you
$250,000 to go see
Yeah.
the Titanic.
yeah, like yes, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Though I did implode.
It's a sense of purpose. It gives
It's a
you-
sense of
Yeah.
purpose.
Sense
Yeah.
of purpose, Dave just said, and I think that's true. And again, I would never look down on someone who said like, I don't want to pay for organized events, because that's mostly my attitude. I do a few a year, like, and I used to do 0 a year. I totally like paying extra money to ride your bike. If it's not in your wheelhouse, there's nothing. I'm not trying to convince anyone they should
No,
pay money to do an
exactly.
event. I'm just saying there is an element of event day that is different, and I think it comes to a lot of things in life, like, and also financial commitment changes your commitment. When you do put down your money, it also does change the way you feel about the thing. Like you're like, to me, I'm committed. Like I don't waste my money. That's the whole point. $180 isn't throwaway money.
And let's
so
just
once
be
I spend
like,
it, I do want to be invested in the event.
Exactly.
So, and
It's a
if you
commitment.
don't do it. Like that's totally understandable.
and I won't speak for everybody, but the $180 for the registration was probably the lowest bill of any. Like I spent more.
that's
I
a good
spent more
point.
than that.
Gas,
I spent more than that on food and like accommodation. Like we we're staying at Airbnbs and driving a big Sprinter van and all that stuff. So like this is a commitment to do this, but at the same time, like I agree with everything that Tim and Micah have said. But I'll also say like if you want to go ride 200 miles for free by yourself with no support, please do that too, because that's also awesome and you should do it and that's fun.
Yeah.
Tim's gone.
What
So
do we do?
so
Is this a no support ride?
so hold on. I want to push back on something here. So Large Marge said Micah is the guy to ride 200 miles with. I'm going to disagree with you there. I think
I didn't ride with anybody.
I think I'm the guy to ride 200 miles with, because if you ride 200 miles with me, you only have to ride 171 miles. So think about that.
Cheers to that. Now it's I would agree with the accountability part, because like it's hard to carve out time to commit to multiple days of being away to go do something like this. But if you have that like financial commitment and the planning, it's a buildup. It's a buildup of excitement and together time and all those things that it's a little superficial in the sense that like you're finding a reason to commit the time to those things, but that's how life works. It's busy and it's full and it's hard to find that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm a big fan of I think everybody should show up to Magnolia Gravel Galore in the fall and ride even just 35 miles.
Yeah.
For God.
Oh, hey.
We're getting like sentimental over here. This is,
You're going to roll in with those.
Yeah, I don't want to be seen crying.
but come to Road Apple and do the 24 miler in March. Like that's a blast. Like those things are like as much about the bike ride to me as about like I've been more tired after Road Apple than I think I was after Coast to Coast, just from all the food and beer and hanging out, and like I'm a big proponent of paying for a few of these events a year. But
Yeah, Road Apple won too. Again, in a lot of these like running races I used to do, the money goes to charity.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like participating. Like Road Apple does that. Everything over and above, they like give back to Garrettsville, which is a small town and not a lot of boosters. It's like, and again, you're like, what would you say? Is it like $40?
yeah, and you get like a pint glass, a T-shirt,
a beer,
some
a
chili,
food,
yeah.
and a planned
A marked route, every turn is marked on that route.
Yeah.
They do it up, yeah.
Hey,
But
we have to cut Ames off. Ames, you've obviously had like half a cider. You're trying to convince people to ride a 2x, so thank you, Yonda, for backing us up here.
No, Ames is actually sober as a
no,
tortoise.
no.
Yeah. Drink some water, Ames. Somebody cut her off.
No, and she's right. Actually, that is what we call the way God intended people to ride bikes.
Oh, really?
Racer X asked, "What do you pay for a cassette?" So Racer, the answer to that is depending on the bike, I either pay about $30 or I have to take out a mortgage on my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it depends on the bike that I'm putting a cassette on.
Yeah.
I think the Garbaruk cassette that I'm running on the Space Horse right now, I think was like $250, and I do not know why. But I know it's light and it makes my bike go.
I love people who run like one bikes talk about saving money, and those SRAM railers are like $700 fucking dollars.
No, come on. This is my the beer that the one I'm holding is mine. The one that I'm not holding is yours.
Listen, Shades.
We must have been
Are
showing
you
this one.
joking?
No, you
Like
said it there.
full. No, I don't have like
That's
a
you, Joe.
Feel
Camel.
mine. We got new beers recently, Tim.
Listen, Joe Camel.
Oh God.
Oh my goodness.
What was the? We had a
What else
command
was
for
there?
the Devil's Drivetrain, and I can't remember it.
It's I don't know.
One bias, the Devil's Drivetrain.
Oh, okay.
Ames, do you have a 2x on that mountain bike? Because I got to know this before we do Rain of Pain.
Dude,
I got to run with someone that knows
Hey.
how to
Mountain
run a
bikes are
1x.
not in the 1x.
This is not part of.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
They're separate.
They went
tortoise.
one by a long time ago.
Yeah, as we know, all mountain bikes are 3x, so we don't even need to talk about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, your mountain bike's 3x.
Yeah. You guys looked at it and you were like, look at all these gears. You were like,
It was cool that you had backups. Like if one fails, you can go to another one.
yeah. And another one.
Good Brad's comment there.
Don't play Prince. Don't play Purple Rain.
I feel like it was
Do you want a new beer? I'll get you a new beer, Tim.
you. No,
New
no.
beer? All right.
We swapped it before.
No, don't.
Oh.
Dave, can you cut this part out too, please?
James has her mountain bike.
I'm just gonna
set
keep.
up.
I'm gonna keep pretending this is a thing we can edit that's not
Nice.
going out live. Yeah.
Abort. Yeah. There is editable after the fact. It takes like about 12 hours, but yeah.
Edibles
Edible.
after the fact.
Edible.
Edible?
Editable.
Oh, I see. There's an extra vowel in there. We've gotten to that
I can
point.
have some.
Is this where we start taste testing Oreos?
Yeah. Kit Kats.
Kit Kats, that's right. The recumbent drivetrain.
John, I gotta work tomorrow.
Oh, is he on his way? He always offers this
Double
way too
Jameson's
late.
on me if you want to keep this party going.
He always offers this
That's
stuff way
that's
too
the
late.
that's the thing about John. So I will say this for John. So John finished before midnight. He stayed up until like 3:30 a.m. to drink beer with us when we got back to the Airbnb after
What a
Carl's
sweetheart.
finished. So,
Oh, I went to sleep.
so
Yeah,
John was as committed to John was as committed to drinking at the end of the day as he was to finishing the 204-mile race. So I respect that.
I do
Cheers.
feel like, man, me and John have that in common.
Mm-hmm.
Our commitment to drinking.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it actually. Now that I know he had to work tonight, but but he should probably be here. You'd be streaming till 2 a.m. if he was here.
Yeah, Yanda said that responsible people have their bikes checked pre-race. I noticed that my Fargo has
No.
a cracked link, so that's cool. Before I take it to Rain of Pain, I mean, I know that exists. So if it fails, I know why,
Yeah.
right? It's better to know the problem before it happens.
Well, I like how like Yonda and Otis always like every time something goes wrong, they're like, "What did you do this?" And I'm like, "That's your job."
Not my problem. I rode the bike. You fixed the bike.
Why weren't you checking on me
Yeah.
like a responsible chaperone?
Because like we're at the mountain bike trail, they're like, "Your cassette is loose," and I'm like,
Sounds like a you problem.
"Yeah, I didn't build it. I did build it."
I think we need to start
You
a bike
built this
shop
bike.
called Chaperone.
Like, every time they say, like, when I build a bike up completely, like I have
I
the Specialized over there. When something goes wrong with the Specialized, it's all on me. When something goes wrong on the Gunner, no. You guys, my hands have not touched this. Like, you know.
That's what I said to my proctologist. Yanda, I have a wax chain for the Fargo. I'm gonna replace it before we do this weekend ride. So should be good. Should be good.
Is Rain of Pain down at Tuscazor, or where's that at?
Tuscazor. Yeah.
This is that lap thing where you do as many laps? I remember watching Linky's video last year. It looks fucking horrible.
Yeah,
looks
why
horrible.
do you want to do this
the
now?
outside
I don't
with
know.
this?
They trade riders.
Fargo. I'm gonna do
the Fargo, for sure.
Yeah, because it's so Ames and I are teamed up for this. Basically, Kim's gonna be there running our tent.
Ooh.
Yep.
What does running a tent mean? I'm running a tent right now. You know what
I didn't notice. I didn't notice.
All right. Goodbye.
But I don't have to ride the
Seems
loop.
more like a bivvy to me.
I mean? Try a little harder.
That's what I was gonna say to you.
Why does this thing always go off the rails when I'm here?
Yeah. So you trade off laps. It's 8.5 mile mountain bike track.
That's
About
rough
an
shit
hour
down
long.
there. Have you ridden Tuscazor?
No.
Me and Large. So me and Aaron and Dylan rode like we went to Unhitched that Micah does the design work for, like all the way through the country. Like we did like a 105-mile ride. And then we camped, and in the morning we're like, then we'll hit the mountain bike trails and ride back down the towpath. No big deal.
Oh jeez.
So of course, like you said, cheating the bike you need. So the Raleigh is the bike I need, but it wasn't the bike I needed for the 10 miles at Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
That stuff is
So
it's
rocky.
rough. It's rough.
Climby.
Ames gave him an out, which was basically that if he didn't feel like riding a loop, she was willing to keep going.
Ames
Yeah.
ride
So,
is like,
Yeah. In case people didn't hear that, Ames sheepishly texted me and said, "Hey, if at some point you don't feel like doing another lap, do you mind if I do a lap in your place?" Like the true animal that she is. Like, yeah, that sounds really fair, actually. Sounds excellent.
Funny thing is, love Ames, ridden with Ames a bunch. Super fast gravel rider, super fast road rider.
Yeah.
I actually don't know how does she handle.
Very skilled.
Very skilled.
She and I went out
She's here
to,
too, so
Yep.
but she could lie for.
Let's talk about some things that Ames is. Hold on. Let's all talk about some things that Ames is not very good at. What if we
picking lines.
So it's one
Yeah.
thing.
Picking, I think Brad would say picking lines. Was that? I remember that being a joke on one ride. No, we rode at Hampton.
She rides out in
was
traffic a little too
super
much.
fast. Yeah. I think she'll be great out there. Yeah.
Good luck, Ames.
I mean, it's Tuscaloosa. I would say it's like taking Hampton and East Rim, combining them.
Yeah.
So you get the rocks and technicality of East Rim, but on the fast descents of Hampton.
Wow.
Yeah, it is quick. It's a quick like.
That'll be interesting. I'm nervous about it in a race scenario because I already get a little self-conscious on the mountain bike trails. I don't want to hold anybody up.
Yeah, and that's how I ride them too.
Yeah, and so that's going to be something in the back of my head is like when I get to a technical rocky thing that I don't have a ton of skill on, I don't want to screw someone else's approach up that they're like totally set to take this thing and I flub it and now they have to stop as well. So hopefully, I
Well,
don't screw
Ames'
anybody
comment
else up.
right here, let her speak for herself, is good. I've not ridden this course, and neither has Micah. Love this for us.
First place.
Yeah.
Yeah, should go fine.
You've ridden all of those trails, right?
Tuscaloosa?
Yeah.
We rode them a bunch, and of course we got lost, and then we ended up riding trails that weren't opened yet. And so, like, Dylan, who is
thing.
like an expert, like, at like super technical and super gnarly stuff, like, gets mixed up in me and Ben's energy, and we're off trail.
Yeah.
And so we end up running on this trail where there's like these little flags, you know, like your lawn flags.
Yeah.
And one goes up into my derailleur and is stuck in like the pulley wheel, bright orange. And so then Dylan's like, I don't think we're on course anymore. I think these are trails that are going to be opening up later. And we're like, oh shit. And so we kind of finally find our way back. And the one guy tells us we're going the wrong way on the trails. And we're like, where's the wrong way? There's no signs here. This is, you know, Hampton's always the same way, East Rim reverse.
Yeah.
He was like, well, it's behind the barn. And we're like, we didn't know about the behind the barn. But this guy's very nice and is helping us out. And he's like one of the trail maintenance guys. And so then we're joking later about like, after we run into him and the flag stuck in my derailleur, somebody be like, did you guys go down that path? And we're like, no.
Don't know what you're talking about.
There's like a orange little piece like stuck up in my...
Is this the towpath?
Yeah, that's always the answer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Trying to find the towpath.
yeah, just trying to see that dam down there. I don't know.
Yeah, should be fine.
Well,
Yeah, so good luck to both of you.
yeah. Kudos for you. Kudos for
thing
you
to follow
to
up
go
with
from
big
from going to a ride where we have
you
something
see-
that we call the pit of despair to doing something called the rain of pain. And,
Yeah,
So Rusty,
seems to make sense.
Rusty has been on the channel in
Yep.
Arizona a bunch of times. He's over in Europe right now doing his deployment. He said the rain of pain. He's like, you should do that. And I'm like, the name doesn't sound like something I'm into. And I said, when they have a rain of fun, hit me up.
rain of fun.
And
A
so
rain of beer.
He wrote back and he was like, well, that doesn't rhyme. And I said, well, when they have a pun of fun, hit me up. Like, you know, like-
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he did it on a Fargo 1-speed. He and
Yeah,
Lanky were
he's a-
teammates.
Someone else asked about single speeding, and there's single speeders. There's masochists in this group.
Yeah,
Like, so everything I've said about Micah is true, but he's not. He also
I don't
understands-
ride single speed.
He also
yeah.
understands
He sometimes
simple-
wants to shift.
simple
Yeah.
physics. He
Yeah,
doesn't-
gears are
He does not.
good.
Yeah. So he might be a Jesus freak, but he also understands.
I do remember.
Simple ratios. Yeah.
I do remember after.
There's no point where like someone said like the Romans had a figure if your hand goes here and your hand goes here, like it's got to be able to be supported, right?
Right. Yeah. It sounds like it makes sense. I'm pretty sure when you were about to split off on the Y bridge after our Conneaut back to back, you're like, well, that was fun. Worst ride of my life. Have a good one. Took off on the Y bridge.
If you're the kind of person who thinks the worst ride of your life could still be a really fun ride, consider doing Michigan Coast to Coast
Yeah.
or Reign of Pain or any of these other.
That's right. They're all there for you.
So what do you ride? So you're riding the Fargo?
Yeah.
How wide will you go on the tires for this?
3-inch.
Oh yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
so much more
Comfort
better than
ride.
gravel bike with 42s. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to destroy the wheels on this bike. On,
The other
on
thing,
the outside.
and I always say this about technical mountain biking trails, if there's not super scary drop-offs, like
Oh yeah.
hitting some rocks, you hit the brakes a little. The thing like with the Reign of Pain, what you'll find at Tuscazor is sometimes you go up. And that stuff, skin tires cannot go up at slow pace.
No.
That's where,
Yeah, that's where so any sort of like boulder size stuff that you encounter at phase 1 of East Rim, especially. I've ridden the Otso on that, and I've had to walk it up those sections because I don't have the technical skill, and I'm afraid of like destroying those rims more than I already have. And whereas the Fargo, I don't really care about. The Fargo is just like I want to beat it, I want to ride it, and just throw it through all that stuff. So
you just want to beat it.
I want to beat it. When it comes down to it, Tim, I want to beat it. I'm good. Yeah. Kim gives the head nod.
We lose a drinker each time I get new beers, so that's how we know the stream's running then. Yeah.
Ew.
So that bike should be fine.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see. So you should watch Lanky's video before.
Okay, to
You
get
go.
a sense of the route.
Yeah, because him and Rusty did, and Rusty is
Incredible. Yeah.
like your level rider.
But
He runs ultra marathon, so he
he is
actually is
beyond.
like he loves Jesus even more than you do.
Because Jesus was a communist, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why Rusty
Yeah,
loves him.
it's all about what do they call it?
Self-flagellation,
Yeah,
yeah,
flagellation.
not flatulation, which I also believe in. Yeah,
Speaking of self-flagellation, though.
self-flagellation.
Everybody a self-flagellator?
Yeah, self-flagellation can be self-flagellation in a small room. So yeah,
I love that me and you did like a 40-mile ride talking about God, and now I'm just like still. I completely actually understand you as a human, but now like on a live stream,
yeah,
jokes are my most.
that's the
most
only way
important
to
thing.
get. Yeah, the most important thing.
I went into the Michigan Coast to Coast gravel grinder as a non-religious person, but between the weird bugs and the coyotes, I think I may have found God somewhere in that sandy forest.
Which God?
Didn't
And it turns out that it's not the God you want.
God you deserve.
God is a motherfucker.
That's the God you
Old
deserve.
Testament guy.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's Yahweh.
Yahweh. Yeah.
Yeah.
God has no name.
Yeah, Michigan only has the Old Testament God. Trust me, like you don't.
Yep, you got it.
Which is funny because I believe that you're writing for the New Testament God.
Yeah, you know what? But I said this on a post I made recently, just like kind of my only way to suss out this ride. But my natural disposition is just to like be positive because I don't want to burden anybody with my like true feelings. So
Oh man, God.
when I'll come to a place, whether it's the rest stops on this ride or wherever it is, no matter how miserable I'm feeling, unless it's really bad, I'm just going to meet it with positivity because that's going to be the easiest route, right?
Yeah.
It's ultimately a selfish thing to do because I don't want to have to confront the true feelings and like deal with other people's reaction to that. I'm just going to deal with that internally. So, but the ride on Saturday was one where I finally got to a place where I was empty enough to just like be in my feelings. And it was in the pit of despair.
So terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrible. No, actually, it was really joyous. But I was like
Oh.
crying and happy, like laughing. But like, I just imagine Tammy Faye, just like makeup running down, but like laughing maniacally. But yeah, it was just
Everybody
a really.
here isn't 1,000 years old, so you might have.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Watch the Witch's Gemstones, and you'll understand.
Oh, great show.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I was televangelist level, just crying and happy, but raw enough that I could deal with all of that. And but it did take a lot of writing to get there. But I think
you gotta know who you are a little bit,
yeah.
because that will be challenged going into this. Racer X said, "I'm a devout atheist." Racer, go ride the Michigan Coast to Coast gravel grinder, and you will become even more of an atheist. God cannot see you in that forest.
Oh God. Yeah, it's there was some darkness out
So
there.
the coast to coast will make you more of wherever you are.
Yeah,
basically.
as Greg Milo once said, where I suck, I love myself the most. And that is the truth on the 200 mile gravel grinder. Yeah.
I've actually found this kind of be an interesting thing. So like when we go on, like me and my small group go on our like trips every like 4th of July, a lot of people are like, oh, you're doing this, oh, you're raising money for what? And we're like, we're not. We're like going to drink
going.
beers and have fires
Yeah,
and sit
yeah.
on a campsite.
Yeah.
And like some of the days might be tough,
Yep.
but we're not like going to put it out there. And like same thing, even like going into the territory you guys just were. Like our days are 60 miles, so there might be trying times like sand, route, but at the end of the day, like if there's the last resupply spot, like I'm going to strap a 6-pack to my bike. and
You're
cook
gonna
it
have a
around the
great
fire.
fucking time. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
going on vacation.
Yep.
And it's really interesting, like having a YouTube channel with like a diverse audience. So a lot of people, and we're seeing in the comments, or and you see it in the comment section of the live chat. Like there's people who can only see things through their own
Yeah.
vision, and it's like I've always said this. I love everything about riding a bike. So it's like I'm going on vacation. This is to me like what people do to go to the beach. So.
Right.
This trip is like our most challenging one yet, but at the same time, it's not about like pushing myself to a meditation point, to an edge. You know, I more do that when I ride my bike myself, and I make one of those challenges we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier. Like, I want to get to this point and get back, and that's like what the coast to coast would be. And now hearing your guys' story is something I really want to do. It would be completely apart from what I consider my vacation to be.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to stop in a brewery and have a beer. I have a cutoff time. I'm gonna calculate in my mind what I'm gonna do at those rest stops. Like,
Yep.
how long do I want that to be? Do I want it to be like? Because I know how I am. If I lay down for too long, I don't want to get back up.
Exactly.
So it might be like, just, you know, give me my supplies, give me some positive energy. I'm gonna hit the road.
Get out of here. Yep.
I am such a visual person. Like that's why I have this channel. Like I'm gonna be filming it.
Yep.
I might take some pictures. For that thing, I probably wouldn't carry a camera. It would just be a GoPro.
Get your GoPro. Yeah.
But like on my vacation, like I'm gonna be carrying a full-on professional camera.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna want to document it.
Yep.
Two different things, like completely different things.
That's
So
what's so cool about it.
Yeah.
Is you can do them both ways.
that's how I live, and like I get the people who are always have to push themselves to their extreme. I think we all exist somewhere on that spectrum,
Yeah.
but we're all more in the same place
Yeah.
than the people who always just push themselves.
Yeah.
Like
That's it.
I can't get over the people who I feel like never just have fun riding their bike. And
Yeah.
and I don't mean this as an insult to anyone who has that point of view. I don't understand it. Like
Yeah.
I need to have most of the time I ride my bike to have fun.
Yep.
Once in a while I want to do something like what you guys were just talking about.
Well, like I told the story the first time I was on your stream, when I showed the gravel bike that I'd built myself. That was my that I still to this day have more miles on than I have on the Space Horse. Like I got that bike because I rode on the towpath from like starting Canal Fulton where it's all in the woods, And then when I saw in downtown Akron that it's this like urban, like I was so hooked on the adventure aspect that like I bought that bike. The first day I had it, I rode it 1 mile. I tried to bike up the hill from the towpath back to Highland Square, and I puked in a bush. And that could have been the end of my cycling journey. And I didn't push because I was committed to like athletic feats or like personal growth or anything like that. I just wanted to have fun, and I loved being on a bike and like experiencing the like adventure aspect and going fast down hills and all that stuff. And like whatever it is, like if the only thing that pushes you is like having a beer with your friends at the end of the ride or like whatever it is, or if it's like jumping in the lake because you beat the sunset goal on a 204 mile, like whatever it is, like you just got to chase that thing, I think. And like you can use that to drive you to do any type of ride of any distance. And it's like, just the being on the bike is the part that's fun. Like I don't,
I would say Ames is the perfect example. Like we talked about earlier, she's someone who is like podiums at every event, like knows her heart rate, pays attention to training programs, but she's been riding with her on Wednesday because she's like, bikes are fun.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop and have food and beer.
yeah.
Still ride kind of hard, still do
Yep.
some challenging stuff. Doesn't matter, but it wouldn't matter if like one night we went out and like nothing challenged her. She'd
Yep.
be like, "This is a social, fun event." Like so, I don't know. She's one of my favorite examples of a cyclist, someone who can like
Do the
win
whole spectrum.
win a gravel grinder event, but then it's still like, because there's other people that I like actually like as people, I don't think ever enjoy
Yeah.
riding a bike, and so when I say enjoy, there's some people who are always pushing themselves, and that's what they find enjoyment
That's what they
in.
find joy in. Right.
But again, so I think for their joy in life is probably off a bike. It's probably
Right.
at a family gathering. It's probably, we all have those too. But like, the bike always has to have some element of fun for me.
I think that
Yeah.
it's the difference between a habit and a goal. You know, like if the goal is to win a race or to PR, it's a worthy goal.
Yeah.
But a habit is something that your identity is based in. And so if your identity is to be a cyclist, some of those days are going to be slow. They're going to be, you're not going to feel great on the bike, but it's who you are. So that's what you do. Some days you're going to feel incredible and you're going to go really hard. Some days you're going to be around other friends that have that identity and they're going to push you further. And that's where I find myself on rides like Saturdays. I'm not going to win that thing. That's not my identity. It's not my goal. And I haven't trained for that, like that takes an incredible commitment in life with a lot of sacrifice to be able to ride 200 some miles in 10 hours. That's an identity that I will never have, physically or mentally. But I do like to prove something to myself. And so as someone that didn't grow up athletically engaged really and didn't have that identity, it amazes me when I can ride with a group of people and be like, oh, surprise myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do that. And whether that happens in X hours or another set of hours, X miles or another set of miles. Like before I really started riding habitually, I would look at you guys and be like, man, that looks like a great life. It's not like the times, the data, any of that stuff. It was just like, that just looks like a good life to ride your bike around and see the world in that way. So I don't know. There's a lot of reasons people get involved in this, but if you can make it your identity, then all of a sudden it really does start to integrate itself into the flow of your life. I think there's a purer payoff because on those tired, slow days, it's not like a personal failure. It's just like, this is who I am today.
How I feel.
I have
get
to
that a
just
lot.
slow pedal it.
Yeah.
So people want information, which is totally understandable. They want to go ride the Gap in CNO. Since I've done that and posted videos, I get comments. Ohio Deary, we've done that a number of times. I made videos, we get comments. How do you train for something like this? And I
ride
don't
every
have
day.
the answer because I just ride my bike all the time. So it's like, and this isn't a flex. It's not like meant
Nope.
to be like, so it's like trying to think of the answer. It's like, well, you go out and ride 10 miles one day And once that feels comfortable, you ride 15 miles. And if you could ride 15 miles, you could easily ride 30 miles.
Yep.
But like, I don't know how to answer that question because it's like,
It's not the right question.
I love riding my bike. I am not riding my bike to get to a
do.
goal.
Yeah.
Like to ride across Ohio. I ride my bike all the time. So when we're like, comes to vacation, we're like, we're going to ride our bikes across Ohio. Like,
Yep.
we're going to stop when we want to. Like, we're not racing across Ohio, you know. So we're going to look at like, what are the cool spots we want to see?
That's right.
And where's our end point? We have all day to do it.
That's
you know?
right.
So I would say to the people who say that, it's like, how much time do you have?
Yep.
How much
Yeah.
time do you want to spend enjoying your ride?
There you go.
When we did the CNO and Gap last year, we spent way more time on the CNO than the Gap. Me and Aaron were in the Gap. It's pretty, it's cool, but the CNO is history. It's
Right.
a canal towpath. It's
Yep.
Harper's Ferry. It's amazing. We wanted to spend our time and love it. So we spent more days doing that part of the trip. So, and I think that's true of anything in life. Like Rick Steve says about touring Europe. He's like, old people go over there and they spend their whole entire time in Europe waiting in lines. Walk the streets, enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's just
Exactly. Yeah.
the life philosophy. Doing
That's-
physical challenges like we're talking about, this whole stream is about, that appeals to some of us.
Yep.
If it doesn't appeal to you, don't do it.
Don't do
Don't
it.
do it. Like,
Yep.
go do a tour. Enjoy yourself. If you could ride 20 miles a day, ride 20 miles every day. Look up Airbnbs. Don't haul gear. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to. It's your vacation.
That's
There's
it.
no metrics from the outside that should affect your life. You know?
Yeah.
5 years ago, when we were talking about doing this Michigan ride, there was a group of us, Otis and Ryan and Albert, and a bunch of people were in the organizational meeting for that. And I remember saying to Kim, I'm a little afraid that this might be the last time I ever ride my bike if we do this. Because like it was a goal. And I was so inexperienced. I didn't have the physical side of it nailed in. And that was, I think that was a legitimate fear was, well, if I'm going to build myself up to do this, then what? You know? Because I didn't have the other things before that of like, oh yeah, you can go ride 60 miles or 100 miles or whatever. And the next day you wake up and that ride happened yesterday. Now here's today. You know, like that
Yeah.
doesn't matter anymore unless you have an experience to carry with it, you know. So it is one of those lessons in life of things happen in time if they need to, and it happened at a time that it's a great experience. It was with great people, very memorable, but it's not the definition of who I am as a cyclist. It will be a great memory, and there's going to be lots of other stuff beyond that.
Yeah.
But that's all it is. And so, yeah, a lot of times it's just the wrong question of like, how do you train for? Like, I highly respect the commitment that John and Carl had for months building up to this. On the
They
other
had set
side,
it as a goal for this year, and that makes sense.
they're going to keep riding beyond that.
Yeah.
And they knew they needed to do certain things to like be able to accomplish this. On the other side of that, I kind of savored the moment of like, what if I just like commute every day and ride with you guys on the rats once in a while and like pull a long ride once in a while? Can that same person like Tony did go out and pull a crap ton of miles
Yeah.
on one day because you have a will of determination and physical capability and a bike you've built that is right for you? You pull those things together and your just stubbornness and will of spirit is like, I'm going to do this. I think there's something really special about that too. And that certainly John and Carl had that as well, in addition to a lot of training.
Well, and it's like, I know Carl is going to, you know, at some point, he's going to come on a Sunday morning Yeti Squad ride with the trailer on his Gorilla Monsoon, pulling his little baby Milo.
Yeah.
And I know John, like, you know, in a few weeks here, John and I are going to go do a tour through New York, and we're going to ride, you know, 60, 70-mile days with lots of stops to look at historical sites and get lunch and drink beers. And, like, there's like, yeah, this is, like, one type of thing you can do, but there's just, like, a love of, like, every corner of cycling that, like, permeates, like, this, like, attitude you have to have. And it's, like, it can, you know, I think having that attitude is, like, what rewards you when you do something, like, singular, like accomplishing what you did, like finishing pre-sunset on a 204-mile ride. But it can also be like, I mean, it's like, you know, I'm not gonna spend a week or a month wallowing and not having finished the 204-mile ride. I'm like really excited to go ride my bike like tomorrow night or like next
Yeah.
weekend or whatever. It's like, it's like the pure just pursuit of like a goal can't be the only thing you have. Like,
Any
about to
person
drop-
you would approach at work and you were like, yeah, I failed. I only rode 171 miles. They'd be
Right,
like,
like-
you lunatic.
what
are
an,
you
what, an,
talking
what, an,
about?"
what an asshole I would be to
We're in
even think
Kent,
that
and
way.
we
Yeah,
tell
it's
people
like,
we rode 10 miles to get there, their minds are
yeah.
So-
Like it's like,
normies as we call them. But
yeah.
I'm about to drop a video about me and Erin riding mountain bikes, and her like, she was like, and she's talking about like, she never would have ridden a mountain bike if like she wasn't tricked into it. Like she went out to Jake's Rock, she's like, bikes, camping, fires, beers, like all this sounds great, and then she's like, it's mountain biking, and then
Yeah.
like the bug bit her, and she loves it. But what she's saying is, in the video, she's like, I live right by Hampton.
Yeah.
She's like, an hour to go ride my bike with no decisions to make.
Yes.
And she's like, that is sometimes the most freeing thing. And like, you always think of mountain biking as being like the most decision laden thing.
Nope.
And she's like, no, I show up there, you follow the trail. If you don't pay attention, you die.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
That's the
and this
basic.
is Sedona, you don't
Yeah.
die. But like, I mean, like that kind of thing. And I think that's also like, wow. Like, listen to that, like a freeing perspective of someone who never rode a bike 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Of being like, to go mountain biking and just follow the trails makes me feel free. Like, you know, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think they're nailing in the chat right now. So Yonda said,
Yeah, we should pay
uh,
attention to ours.
Yonda made a joke that I won't dignify with a response. But then after that, Yonda said, Tony spotted me on the dumbest climb I could do with a burley full of my children. Thanks for the save, Tony. So if anybody knows and Aaron has a personal history with this climb, but the little roller rink loop off the
Oh,
towpath,
the
that
yeah.
big steep. So I saw Yonda do that with the trailer with his kids in it the other week, and then John said after that, my take on training versus habit is that I love to cycle, so for the most part, training is not a chore because I love to do it. So I think that pretty much sums it up. Like if you're having to force yourself to ride your bike in preparation for a ride, I think you're probably not going to have a lot of fun on that ride.
Yep.
And I mean that like that's the like dividing line. I think we're like all talking around here is you either like doing that or you don't.
Yeah, last year I rode on the MS 150 that goes through Pennsylvania and ends in my hometown. And
Microsoft 150.
the Microsoft 150, you got it. It's all about the chips. Intel. And I had made it into a longer ride, but I encountered a lot of people on that ride that was their goal ride of the year. And they were in a lot of pain and a lot of suffering on that ride. And so many times on it, I just thought of our Akron crew. It's like people that ride all the time. And it really wasn't a dig at those people. I just wish that they got to experience what we do.
Just liking riding your bike.
Yeah, I'm
I
don't
photograph.
suffer for this one day.
I photograph a lot of the
riding."
Ohio to Erie Canal events, and like, there's just so many people with money that just want to donate, and
Right.
it's like it's noble,
Yep.
but they're clueless. Like someone asked me one time, they're like, "What is this? What is this over here?" And I was like, "The canal." And they were like, "Oh, that's the canal." And I was like, "We're riding to support the Ohio and Erie Canalway. This is where the towpath." So, but then you like, but it's the same thing. It's like bikes breaking down, people breaking down. And it's like you don't ever ride your bike just because you like to ride your bike. Like there's this thing you think you need to do.
Yep.
And that's what I was saying with the training thing. Like it's like don't train for it if you're not capable. Just don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
just don't do it. Like just ride. If you like riding your bike around the neighborhood with your kids, or you just like riding
It's
your
good to
bike
go.
you have a convenience store, just do that.
There's
Like,
nothing to prove.
there's nothing to prove.
Yeah, I mean, and to John's point, like, if you love to ride your bike and you want to ride your bike in a way that is beyond what, that is going to be more enjoyable because you train, then train. You know, that's awesome. I think Ames in the same way, like, trains very hard and still finds joy in casual rides or I don't know that Ames ever rides casually, especially when
She does with us. but,
I don't think so. When she maniacally laughed as she passed me splashing through a puddle on the route 8 gravel, so I would get
Yeah.
covered in grime. That was not. That was joyful, but in an intense way.
Well, but it's like you also have to like. So my goal was to ride the whole 204 miles, right? And I didn't finish it, but I don't regret riding that 171 miles because I didn't finish. Like I had a lot of fun riding that, and I think it's like the same. Like you're not gonna, you know.
Exactly. You can't dismiss the thing
Yeah,
you did
like-
because it didn't.
Like
fulfill the
if
thing
whatever
you
you're
expected.
training for doesn't work out, like hopefully you don't regret the training because at the end of the day you were still like doing the thing you like doing, which is just riding your bike like some distance.
Yeah,
like
I do. So, and I'm someone who's a total fan of professional cycling. Follow like Americans follow football.
Yeah.
Like I just love it. Like again, these people are paid to do it. Like so, when we talk about doing a challenge, it's of our own volition. When we talk about doing anything like having a personal goal, it's of our own volition. To me, it's like I never judge anyone who just wants to ride a bike. Like,
Right.
you know, like, and I do have rides that you're not invited on if you can't keep up.
Right.
Like, it's just what we're doing on that day. Like,
Right.
we're riding gnarly stuff, we're riding really fast, and this is the mileage. Like, this is just what this ride is. I do a ton of other rides that have no connection to that, like
Yep.
Akron Bike Party, you know, like these Cleveland rides that are so great, like, you know, Slow Roll Cleveland. It's like, yeah.
slow roll Cleveland, that famous.
I tickle your balls as we
Yeah.
But again, it's just like, I love riding my bike, but I ride my bike in every way possible.
Yeah.
So it's like, but again, I never look down on anyone for any reason about like bike riding. It's like, just ride bikes.
It's not a competition.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we
sometimes
have
it is literally
we
a
have
competition, but-
yeah. We have a
But a
competitive
personal-
spirit, but
yeah,
it's
personal
usually against ourselves or for some arbitrary thing that's not to like defeat somebody, but to motivate you further.
I get all these comments about people asking about like the speed thing. It's like, because sometimes we do post a ride, like the Wednesday when we went out to Maze Valley.
Yeah.
We rode hard and fast.
Yeah.
And like that's what we did. But that doesn't mean that's all I do or I exclude anyone for not doing
You're not going to
that.
name that ride now. It's the fast ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just what we were doing on that night with the group we had. Like so the fact that I can ride fast on a level, not even Micah's level, like does not change the fact that like I respect all kinds of riding.
Yeah.
You know, and I do all kinds of riding. Like the fact that it's all I do just has turned out that once in a while me and my friends want to ride fast.
Yeah.
So,
They're all saying abort in the chat.
should we
Labort.
abort?
I'll just say this: final thoughts on the Michigan Coast to Coast gravel grinder. It sucks and it's awful and you shouldn't do it and it's not a good use of your time. And no, kidding.
But if you do it,
Oh God, you're gonna pull these out again?
I have an extra
please.
set of nipple protectors for you that I'll donate because you're gonna need them.
Please sound off in the chat if you want to buy Micah's used nipple protectors for the.
Lightly used. Lightly used.
All right.
Bye,
Are
everybody.
we actually leaving? All right.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Okay, this is not okay.
Fitzwater photo.